How's it going, everyone? And welcome to an episode of No Excuses on YouTube.com with your favorite show host, Ara Still.
Venerian.
And Volacel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week. But first of all, the Queen is dead. Long live the King.
Yes. Yeah.
Her Majesty Elizabeth II passed away this week. Eternal rest grant unto her, O Lord, and the perpetual light shine upon her. And she has been succeeded by her son, King Charles III, which everybody has mixed feelings about.
Yeah. Although, given the crop of the rest of the royals, yeah.
I think that he's the only real successor who hasn't been disinherited amongst his immediate family, so it was going to be him, but his approval rate is something like 40-odd%.
Yeah.
Not that these things matter in a monarchy, but I don't think anybody would cry if he decided to abdicate to his son.
No.
I was just saying, like, a week or two ago, that I thought she was just going to outlive him out of spite.
I would have loved to see it. It was impossible. She was so old and so frail, but I would have loved to see it happen, simply because I don't particularly like Charles. He's not without his good points. He does have his head screwed on right in a few ways, but he has his head screwed on very wrong in a few ways, and he won't ever shut up for some reason.
Yeah. But, if you follow the line of succession, the next 3 people down the line are all under 12 years old at this point, so...
Well, after his son.
After his son, yeah.
Yeah, but his son is hale and hearty and quite young, and everybody loved Elizabeth II, and one of her most distinguishing features is how young she took the crown while managing to hold on to it for 70 years. Like,
yeah.
The longest reigning monarch in British history. I think that as a cultural institution, it serves well to reign for a long time if possible. I mean, what'll happen if Charles decides to stay king until his death is that he will be king for a couple decades at most, and then his son will succeed for a couple decades at most, and then so on and so forth.
Yep.
Like, we'll be back into the short reigns, which
Yeah.
I don't think is really that useful for the monarchy as an institution that exists now. I think length is important. Back when the monarchy was the one wielding the power, you don't want them to be in power for more than a generation. But
Yeah.
does anybody... There's very few people who are alive who remember the ruler prior to Elizabeth II.
That was her father who abdicated, if I recall correctly.
I don't remember whether he abdicated or not. I think her father took the throne via an abdication.
It may have been that, yeah, because there was Victoria, and then there was 2 more, if I'm remembering correctly. I could be completely off. My history's kind of off the cuff at the moment, but yeah, there was a number of very short reigns between Victoria and Elizabeth II.
Yeah, and Elizabeth II, I think, did a sterling job given the role of the monarchy in the modern world. She did it about as well as it could reasonably be done. There were many times that I wish that she would intervene, but in order to sustain what the monarchy is now, she didn't really have that option. But I think she will be remembered fondly for the rest of history of the Commonwealth, at least. And she was a figure that... It doesn't really matter where you go in the world. If somebody says the Queen, they mean the Queen of England.
Yes. There are other queens around, but she's the queen.
Are there?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there are lots and lots of nations in Europe still have queens.
Yeah, as well as a good number of African and I believe South American also have some.
But everybody knows the Queen was Elizabeth II.
Mm-hmm.
And so, unfortunately, this resulted in social media doing its thing, and so there were lots of incredibly bad takes. It was a bad take bonanza.
Adam Bant is the worst human in history at the moment. He didn't even finish his breath giving condolence to the royal family before he started banging on about Republic.
Yeah, it happened in New Zealand as well. The Republican movement in New Zealand is very weak because the cultural heritage in New Zealand is still very strong. That like before, when I was growing up, New Zealand still had the dregs of a reputation for the New Zealand European strove to be more British than the British. That was what we had as our sort of cultural lodestone for the white New Zealanders. But these days that doesn't really exist, but the sort of the cultural fumes are still there. That part of New Zealand's identity is that we are part of the Commonwealth and that the sovereign of Britain is our sovereign too.
Mm-hmm.
As was shown when John Key tried to change the flag to remove the Union Jack, and it was roundly downvoted.
He should have pushed Laser Kiwi. We all
He
told him
might
he
have
should
won with
pushed
Laser Kiwi because people would have voted for it for a lark.
Yep.
But he didn't want Laser Kiwi to be his legacy because it was clearly a vanity project.
Yeah.
But
Unfortunately, the legacy of that whole ordeal is still Laser Kiwi.
But yeah, so despite the fact that Elizabeth II was the queen of decolonisation, there was still an awful lot of moulding Arabs and Indians posting about. Yeah, it's like, I mean, what are you complaining about, Indians? Like, as soon as Britain left, you had a war with Pakistan and started butchering each other. Is your complaint that we did decolonise or that we shouldn't have?
Yeah.
At least pick one. You can't have both. You can't say, oh, you're an evil coloniser. Also, you shouldn't have decolonised because that way we had a war. Like, you got to pick one or the other. And of course, the RGs, as ever. If Charles III wants to win my affection and loyalty, all he needs to do is send the Royal Navy to the Falklands just to flex on the RGs again.
Just for fun.
Because the RGs, like, it really was a litany of all of the people who lost to the British because their ancestors are bad at war, coming out and whinging when the Queen passed. Like, you couldn't be respectful. You just had to trot out your old grievances and remind everybody how badly the British embarrassed you in the theatre of war, especially the Argentinians.
Yeah. Thankfully, no, at the moment, everyone in Australia is just in an official state of mourning, even though Albo's put the official holiday on a Thursday for reasons. And yeah, the Republican
I don't think
movement,
Albo does things for reasons.
well, reasons according to the weird little gremlin that lives in his head. But yeah,
I think he is the weird little gremlin.
he possibly is. Yes. Maybe we should ask the meat suit what it thinks.
So,
Anyway,
before we get too far from the topic, I want to pick a bone with a few Americans. Specifically, Americans closer to my side of the political camp.
yeah.
Some of y'all got the idea that it's dunk on another person time. You misunderstand something very fundamental about being American. We fought the Revolutionary War not to dunk on England and the king and the monarchy, but so we didn't have to care. And my opinion on having this whole event and their state of mourning is let them do their thing. I really don't care about the monarchy. And just going in there to dunk on them when there's a lot of people that are really trying to come to terms with this. Most of these people, traditional types who you would like to be allies with most of the time because they line up with you on literally 90% of the other stuff, you might want to keep it in check a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find a lot of people like me out in the colonies who were raised in a traditional way, who have a traditional view of monarchy and our relationship with Britain. Like, for us, it feels like our grandmother died. Because she was always there for our entire life. She was this presence there.
In a lot of ways, that's very true because there's only a very small percentage of the population, like I'm talking, at this point, probably 1% or less, who remembers a time before Elizabeth II was reigning.
Less than 0.5%, probably.
It's not many people at all.
They would be in their 90s, and when you get that old, you've had a really good run.
Yeah, we're talking World War II vets.
Yeah, there's like 2 surviving D-Day vets in the U.S. now, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think Australia, we lost ours a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think we've lost all of ours as well, but I'm not sure about that.
Or was that the Gallipoli vets? I can't remember now.
I'm sure there are still some of the old soldiers floating around from that era, but yeah, the diminishing portion of the population, especially with the amount of illness and weak immune systems that are going around right now. But it's a very strange reality that we've woken up in now that the epoch that we and our parents' parents all lived in has come to an end, and it's hard to explain to somebody who doesn't have a monarch or doesn't acknowledge their monarch what it feels like to lose one.
Yeah, like even people like myself who are not like super duper monarchists, we still respect the tradition and what the royal family stands for, and it's still a huge blow. So, just if you have something stupid to say, shut up.
Yeah, it's like this is not the time. This is not the time for you to be strutting about and trying to score cheap political points, because this isn't a political matter. This is the death of someone in our extended family.
Mm-hmm.
I have a whole lot more ambivalence towards the situation because I'm American. I just do not care about the royal family. They are just a family that gets a lot of media attention to me.
Yeah, and as you said, you fought a war, so you didn't have to care.
Yeah, but the furthest I'll go is maybe her tweeting a fake tweet from her saying that she has evidence that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton. And anything past that, and actually going and dunking on people and making fun of people for grieving the event, that's not cool.
That's really not cool. So yeah, things are going to be interesting in the old Commonwealth in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think that the crown is a heavy thing, so maybe once he's lifted it a few times, Charles III will grow into it and start to realise that he's got some incredibly legendarily sized boots to fill.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm just glad that everyone in Australia, at least, who's come out with a bad take or has already started to push the Republican agenda, is getting smacked down hard.
I was glad Jacinda at least had the dignity to call an official period of mourning, because she's famous for having absolute scorn for the monarchy.
That was probably the longest speech she had where she did not talk about herself.
Probably the only speech she's had. Where
she did mention herself once in there, because she has to, but yeah, it wasn't about her for a change.
I was glad that she was at least able to retain a modicum of taste and restraint, considering her usual behaviour.
Yes.
Like when Donald Trump looks like the arbiter of taste and restraint compared to your Prime Minister, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Anywho, we're actually a show about video games, allegedly.
Yeah. I didn't want to not mention it, though, because it's just such a massive event.
It is, and a good portion of the world is going to be affected by it in some way. So, yeah.
Right, so if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, which you can get to by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath Show Archive on YouTube. And if you're wondering why I'm talking kind of strange, it's because I've got ulcers again, which has made my tongue swell up.
Yeah.
I seem to get those quite a little bit more than most people I know.
Well, nobody knows what causes them, but there is a theory that it's a virus that lies dormant, and unknown factors will cause it to manifest, because nobody knows what happens, right? Because the injury that a ulcer grows from is usually extremely small, and nobody knows why suddenly all of the cells around it will start to die and degrade down to the basement cells, and then you get an ulcer, which will eventually stop being an ulcer and heal up for reasons that are equally not understood.
Mm-hmm.
So the current theory is that once you become prone to ulcers, you will stay prone to ulcers for your entire life, and it's just a condition that you get.
Yeah, I get them every once in a while. There seems to be a correlation with if I overfloss my teeth, I get them more often, but that's about it.
Yeah, floss less aggressively.
There are some types of cells that they just don't appear in. Like, they don't ever appear on actual gum tissue. They don't ever appear on the top surface of the tongue. Like, there are types of tissue, types of membrane tissue that they do appear in, and types that they don't. But I've had this my entire life that I can remember, since the age of, I remember it starting to happen around the age of 7.
Yeah, I've always got them, but it's relatively infrequent. Like maybe once a year I'll get one. I had one that was so bad I bit it off.
Ugh.
Yeah, if technically speaking, while that's a damaging and unsanitary way to deal with it, technically speaking, that might work because of the simple fact that nobody knows what causes the cell necrosis in that region. Like there's a phenomenon that is clearly happening there that causes cells that are otherwise healthy to die, but there's no way of knowing what it is. So maybe if you just remove the ulcer, it'll heal over as a regular wound, because most people are aware, if they're not prone to ulcers, most people are aware that wounds in the sort of mucous membrane tissues in the mouth heal very, very quickly, like usually within hours.
Oh yeah, I bit it out by the root too. I really chomped on that thing to get it out, and
that would have hurt like hell.
Oh yeah, it did, but it was absolutely murdering me. And I just spat the stupid thing out after I got it out and stuck a cotton swab in my mouth, and it hurt for about another week, but it healed up just fine. I can't even tell you where it was in my mouth anymore.
Oh, well, that's because mucous membranes can't form scar tissue. Although that's not strictly true, because when you are prone to ulcers, you tend to you can't develop actual scar tissue, but you do develop sort of welts of thickened flesh that have just healed over again and again and again and again and again and again. But yeah. Anyway, that's also not about video games, but an explanation for why I sound strange.
Yeah.
Well, stranger.
All right. So on the stream today, I'm playing a bit of Wrath of the Lamb, which is an incredibly cute and incredibly dark. So, yeah, it is a roguelike. Essentially, the plot is very simple. Is you're being we're going to be sacrificed by these bishop dudes who are jerks. And instead of dying, you get whisked away by a fifth entity who basically says, "Go murder the bishops. Your ass is mine now, and you're going to set me free." He's totally going to end up being the final boss. I'm calling that now. But that's basically the plot. You raise up a cult in the name of, well, basically yourself.
Zool.
Using, semi-satanic, but very generically evil-looking symbology all over the place. So, yeah.
If it's good enough for the current monkeypox czar.
Yeah.
Probably good enough for a video game character. I'm not kidding. The monkeypox czar currently has a Satanist big old ram tattoo.
I don't like to think about him. He's incredibly disturbing.
That's alarming. So that's basically it. Is you build up your cult. As you do that, that will then translate into power for your character, and then you go into the field and kill their ass.
I should totally play this game just to name my character Fauci, if you can name your character.
You can't. But you can think of him that way, as a cute, adorable little lamb who willingly sacrifices his followers to a dark, unknowable cosmic entity. So yeah, okay, it's a game about cults, but there's not a whole lot of actual religious symbology in there, thankfully. They've steered clear of, real religions.
Other than the name.
And I'm back to sweeping up the poo of my followers, because this is what a leader does.
You don't think maybe you could pass some cult commandments not to poop on the floor?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're getting people that are prone to join a death Satan cult or whatever. Well, you ain't exactly picking from the brightest lot here.
In a lot of cases, they'll join you because they used to be either members of the other cults, in which case they were turned into some horrible abomination, or they just join you because it's either that or get eaten by rabid whatevers.
Not because their Hollywood careers all washed up.
Well, there's probably a bit of that.
I mean, that seems to be the way you get there now is you want political power or you want to be in a few more movies.
Yeah. And thankfully, for the most part, it looks like a lot of the animals in here just want to be not dead. So yeah, it's a fun little game. Very bleak, yet colourful. I will buy seeds off this weird rainbow shrimp, who is not selling the seeds I want, because he's a jerk. Combat is very simple. It's your standard hacky-slashy, advance through the rooms type roguelike affair. You get to the end of a run, you kill a boss, and then you move on. So far I've killed one of the bishops, the easy one. The game does jump up in difficulty after you kill him, because he's basically the tutorial section of the game. And so yeah, now I've got a somewhat established little camp. For some reason, not for some reason, because of the inevitable passage of time, I've got a whole bunch of people who are dying of age, which is annoying.
As people do.
As people do. Stop dying of old. Old is bad. Don't succumb to it. What the hell am I talking about?
I believe that 100% of people will die of the old if something else doesn't get them first.
Nobody has died of the old in the last 50 years.
You'd certainly believe that if you looked at the television.
Yeah, it's always death by, whatever cause of death, usually cancer or something like that. No one has actually been... No one's been declared death by old age... Yeah, since probably
they definitely didn't die because you forcibly put them on a respirator for a cold.
Yeah, leaving that alone. I don't preach my genericness at these people. So yeah, it's a fun little game. Very, very grim and dark. It's cute, but there's all sorts of horrible stuff going on. Like, actually, I can probably show one of the big rituals. Like, you can do adorable little cannibalisms. If you really want to.
Adorable cannibalisms, huh?
Adorable cannibalisms. Let me see. I can ascend someone, which has a 50% chance of them being torn apart by something in the ceiling.
Do you just lift them up in the air a little bit? Is that their ascension?
Yeah.
Or do they turn it?
Like Simba.
Sacrifice of the flesh. Here we go. This is actually kind of messed up, so I'm going to play it. And I'm going to sacrifice the old person because he's not actually contributing anymore. There you go. He just got fed to the tentacle monstrosity. So yeah. Is it really surprising that something so cute yet so messed up is done by Massive and Devolver?
Does seem to be in their wheelhouse.
Yeah. I didn't even need to look at who actually published this game. Just know it was published by Devolver.
As soon as I saw what it looked like, I knew it was going to be Devolver.
Because, yeah, let's face it, they've established a brand at this point. Yeah, good game. I have no idea of what the end game is actually going to look like because I'm unlocking stuff at a fair rate. That was a bunch of follower meat I just picked up.
Delicious.
Yeah, your cultists tend not to like it too much if you just sacrifice someone out of the blue.
Really? My cultists in real life do.
Leaving that alone. So, yeah, there's a bunch of ways you can affect your cult. Like if I go back into the temple and up around here again. As you basically build up your renown, you'll unlock doctrines, which will determine basically what you can and can't do, which way you get bonuses out of your followers. So there is one doctrine you can apply which makes them love random sacrifice. But anyway, so I'm just going to play this during the show for a bit, though we'll swap over to Ari later on. As for the rest of my week, honestly, I've been putting most of my spare time into this. I haven't really been able to do too much more. I have been picking away at Digimon Survive still, into the post game, which you do tend to progress really quick through in New Game Plus, because you start off with all your mons at whatever level they were at the end of the story, usually around level 60 or so. And you're fighting level 1 stuff, so... Yeah, the battles are they're basically there for plot, and that's about it. That said, after you reach a point, which is after you beat Dokugamon and rescue Aoi, it does.
This is where I'm at, by the way.
That's
the spider just kidnapped Aoi.
Yeah, that event actually is the first time your choices will specifically affect how the plot goes. Depending on your choices, you can either fight him alone or with what's their names, Minoru and Ryu at your side, or one of them, depending on what you choose.
The reason I'm stuck at that point right now is because the game introduced free battles, and I realized after like 2 seconds of experimentation, the mons that show up in these free battles are random, and you can recruit them immediately.
Semi-random.
Well, they have a pool, but
yeah,
that's what random. That's what random means in video games. Is there's a pool of options, and it's going to pick one, and you don't get to choose yourself.
Yes, which is really annoying when you're trying to find something specific, and it keeps throwing the wrong thing at you.
Or it keeps throwing more Betamons at you, and you just need the stupid Gazimon that says it has a 50% chance to be your friend, but won't ever show up.
Oh, it lies. Yes. 50% chance means actually 10% chance.
Oh, I got the 25% one on my first try, though.
Yeah, that
happens.
happens.
10 tries on the Gazimon that said it had a 50% chance to be my friend.
Yeah. So, yeah, you just get the wrong pool.
So, because of the random nature of it and no way to tell ahead of time what's in there, we've already whipped out the guide.
That was quick.
We're going, okay, what mons appear at each free battle point when it becomes available in the story so I can know what I need to recruit.
Yeah.
So I got stuck trying to recruit Gazimons and the Rockmon and a Betamon. And I got all 3. There's apparently a Biomon that shows up somewhere.
Yeah, Biomon can turn up. I've had it turn up at that point.
There's a big old note in the guide that says reset the encounter if you fail to recruit it, because it'll be a while before you can get another one.
Yeah, Biamon's it's a rare spawn. I think it just pops up in something else's pool. One of the Betamon ones, I think.
It pops up in the shadow fights that you can do with the camera.
Yes.
When you're exploring, you can sometimes run into a shadow. I found 2 of them. And it can sometimes spawn a Biomon.
Yeah. So, if you want a Gomamon, you'll get one as a plot event eventually.
I mean, Gomamon is awesome, but...
Marching Fishes.
But you can only do so much with Marching Fishes and his Superfish buddies.
Yeah.
I love the abridged Digimon Tri version of Gomamon, where he's just like, he has no personality other than he has Superfish buddies, and wants Joe to be his, like, you want to be super best friends, Joe? Super best fish friends, Joe?
Yeah.
At least it's better than Gabumon.
It's better than what they did to Gabumon. Poor Gabumon, he didn't deserve that.
He literally has no personality and just is like, I am Gabumon.
Yeah, his personality is severe brain trauma.
You know, Gabumon loses his memory. Matt's like, hi Gabumon, I'm not Gabumon, I'm Sunomon. It Digifalls. How did you know? That's the only joke he gets, because Gabumon has no personality.
He has none. But yeah, that first big event where you get to choose, well, basically who accompanies you into the Dokugamon fight, doesn't really affect much. It's kind of a tutorial decision thing to show that yes, the story will branch. The first time I did it, I went in completely blind, ended up fighting him solo. The second time, because I knew it wouldn't change much, I went in and ended up having Ryu with me as well. Ryu is...
useless.
Yeah.
He seems like he's going to be useless. I mean, his Digimon can technically go down the Stingmon line, but it usually doesn't. That's usually Wormmon.
No, I don't. Oh, actually, I might actually just look up what path it goes down, because
Yeah, it has its own dedicated line, but its own dedicated line is also trash.
yeah,
And like it's been trash in every series that it's been in.
I
It
want to
also
like
can't
its
speak
poor
for
little.
some reason.
Yeah, he just kind of chirps.
It just kind of makes chocobo noises.
Yeah, it is
Which I
a
guess
weird
is-
little caterpillar thing.
I guess it's endearing in a way, but it literally just makes caterpillar noises and has no personality at all.
Yeah. Let's see, which path does it go down? Yeah, it goes down the Beamon
No.
line.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Flymon, Beamon, or Dual Beamon, Bunko Stingmon. So yeah,
Bunch of Stingmon's okay, I think.
as I didn't do Ryu's evolution stories, so yeah, I missed him. I don't know what this snake was. Ignore it.
Do you carry over character affection between playthroughs, or is that
No.
something you got to re-earn?
That's you got to re-earn, but any evolutions you've unlocked, you will still carry over.
Okay.
So if you I didn't do well. Actually, I tried to do what's his name? I'm drawing a blank on his name now. The aggro guy with the little sister complex.
Little sister. Oh, that guy.
That guy. He's so all over the place. It's very difficult to actually kind of pin down what will make him happy without a guide. Like sometimes if you you praise his little sister, he'll be happy. Other times if you praise her, he won't be. He'll get cranky.
Oh, yeah, you're coming on too strong now, my dude. Good luck figuring out what the translators translated the bad answer to, because they all probably will sound vaguely like compliments, but you're not sure which contextually got translated correctly.
Welcome to visual novels, me dude.
Yep.
So yeah, it is still. I've found it to be a very enjoyable game, mostly because of the writing. The
gameplay is. I immediately put that on ×3 speed.
Oh yeah, especially when every battle you have to do all your evolutions. Haven't found a way to just set it to be automated. Like start battle, go immediately into Mega.
Okay, so you can't wait. So you have to manually digivolve your partner.
Yes, every time.
Why?
Whoops. I just did a dump.
Because you want to see the recycled animation over
You
and
do have
over.
to see the recycle animation, because every single Digimon uses the same animation every single time. But there is reasons to drop down levels, is because while they're in the higher levels, they will gradually chew mana or SP, whatever they want to call it. So you revert them down to the rookie form, and they recharge it really quick.
It also appears like every single form, I guess, has its own unique moveset.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Labramon, for example, actually has a heal at the start.
Yeah, it's a healer as a rookie, but I'm fairly certain that thing becomes a caster, like an offensive caster later.
Cerbramon?
It's a good. Well, actually, I think it can go down the Doberman line to be physical attack.
Yeah,
it can go down.
In this case, it goes down Dobermon, and then I think it branches at Mega. Yeah, it goes Dobermon, Cerebramon, and then branches. Cerebramon. Anyway, Cerberus.
Spotmon.
Yeah, I told you
Thank you for
Labramon was a sycophant. She kind of is.
Well, I mean, she's a dog.
She is a dog. So New Game Plus, you will kind of skim through a lot of stuff really quickly, because you don't need to sit down and do the battles. You can just steamroll them. But it does give you a Mugen battle, as they call it, which is just a field full of higher level bad guys which have jacked up stats as well.
There's something in the post game that technically qualifies as in-game content.
Yes, which is these Mugen battles. There are rewards for doing them. I've only done the first one. I haven't really pushed into them too far to know what actually comes out of it yet. I should probably clear them before I do the story divergence, because I suspect that might change something. That is basically my week. There's just really been nothing. Oh, I suppose there's one other thing I can talk about, and that is I watched the Uncharted movie, and it wasn't awful.
Oh, I mean, they're already basically Western movies, the video game.
It's basically Indiana Jones, the next generation, essentially.
Well, why did they bother to make it then?
Reasons? Money reasons.
But these things very rarely make very much money. Like, video game adaptations making money is an exception, not the rule.
Yeah. So, thankfully, I think we're over a hill where video game movies are starting to be actually watchable now.
I suppose, to be fair, even though Uwe Boll's movies are terrible, they still made money because of the tax laws.
Yes. That was the whole thing behind those. So, yeah, I think they did a good job casting. Everyone basically is insufferable as they're supposed to be from the games. The theme song of Nathan Drake's theme song doesn't actually turn up until he gets the right shirt on and it gets it to the requisite level of grubbiness. And the whole ending scene is so absolutely batshit insane that you kind of just have to watch it to believe it.
Well, the Uncharted games are also like that.
Yeah.
Speaking of, you watched the Monhan one, right?
I tried. I really tried.
Did they actually trot out Proof of a Hero?
I can't remember, honestly. It was bad. The movie was just awful. So I've bleached half of it from my brain. I'd assume they would, but I only watched maybe the first half, and that's when I just couldn't.
You were so deeply offended you couldn't watch the rest.
Even if I wasn't a long-term Monster Hunter fan, that movie it would have been a massive just no. They did everything they possibly could wrong. My cultists are unhappy. And I don't have anyone I can whip.
Too fussy.
They are being fussy.
I think you will find most cultists.
Oh, hang on. This is why. You go into the voluntary education rack.
Voluntary education.
It's he's just in the stocks. Unfortunately, dying on a run makes them unhappy as well.
But isn't that like a very likely endpoint for a roguelike?
Yes, it is. It doesn't make too big an impact, but if you die a few times, it does add up. I might put a few decorations around, see if that makes them happy. There. Yeah, there is another Monster Hunter movie on Netflix, which is a full CG one. I haven't watched that one yet, but I watched a few clips out of it, and that one's a lot more loyal to the source material.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure I've heard people say that they liked that one, but that could just be because of the contrast.
You do get to see Joe being Joe. But yeah, I didn't even know how or what they were drinking when they wrote the script for that other movie. It's just no, everything no. But Uncharted is actually a lot of fun. It is because the source I think is very Hollywood pulp. Like it's just action and insufferable quipping people all over the place.
It doesn't really sound like fun to me. I feel like that there's so many of those around now that you have to actually do something worthwhile to distinguish yourself enough to get a watch.
A few years ago, I think I would have agreed with you, but the kind of just the pulpy, corny Hollywood action movie is just gone. No one really. Well, they don't. It's not gone, but it doesn't happen.
You mean ones that are not cape shit, is what you mean to say?
Yes, ones that are not cape shit. Cape shit kind of drowned it out a lot. So,
basically, the being pulpy popcorn action flicks is the only thing cape shit is good for.
Yes, except they're failing at that now too.
I already got a over the top action hero who fills all my needs. He wears a red coat, got 2 guns, got a big sword.
I'm not sure how a Devil May Cry movie would work. I know they'd ruin it.
I couldn't do it.
It wouldn't. The entire story of all 3 of the good games is based around the fact that there is gameplay. Yes. None of that story has any impact if you don't have to go actually beat Virgil.
Yeah.
I never watched the anime of it.
It's bad.
I'm not surprised.
It's
I think
like
it's on
really
Crunchyroll now, actually. So if you really want to hate yourself...
They made it canon, though. It's not as bad as 2, but it's really bad.
Is 2 canon or not?
2 is canon, but it's been sequestered as just into a new point in the timeline. They retconned it so that it's now right after Dante thinks he killed his brother again. And it's just him going through a brief angsty phase, and then he's back to normal.
So they've just written the whole thing off as a phase.
And they got rid of whoever, what's her name, Lucia or whatever?
She appears in a novel, the pre-release novel for 5, and that's the only other time we've seen her. And she made a cameo to drop off the punchy weapon that you use in 5, because you don't kill the demon, they give you the punchy weapon in 5. Dante just starts with it, because at this point it's basically a core part of his moveset. And so they just gave the backstory there.
Fair enough. Alright, so, yeah, that, I'm just going to write off and say, that's my week. I'm done. It's been a, drunk cowboy week, unfortunately. The last big one. It might actually possibly be the last one of the year full stop if they don't fix the racecourse out here. Because, they recently resurfaced the local racetrack. And because Australia, it's dirt. But they left all these little rocks all through the race, the top layer. Anyone who knows anything about horses, you don't want that. Horses
they don't like it.
No, they have a very soft, squishy bit on the bottom of their hooves, and if that gets punctured, then you're going to have a crippled horse for a while.
A crippled horse is otherwise known as glue.
Yeah, it ain't good. At least this year we didn't have a horse, or this time around we didn't have a horse drop dead on the racetrack, so that was something.
What?
For such a large, strong creature, they sure are delicate.
They are. So, it happens occasionally with racing horses, is they'll be in the middle of a run and they'll just have a heart attack.
You know, as you do.
As you do.
Well, ever since the vaccine rolled out anyway.
I guess we were taking that horse pace.
So, yeah. I am glad I can say goodbye-ish to the Drunk Cowboys for another year at least.
So are you hoping they do or don't repair the racetrack?
Both. Like, there's good money in the Drunk Cowboy crowds, but then you have to deal with the Drunk Cowboys.
Well, you sound like me having to deal with a customer that's been driving me nuts.
Yeah, pretty much.
I just want your money. I don't want you. Please go away.
Yeah, exactly. Give me your money and leave.
And also your shiny rock.
And your shiny... Haven't talked about that all year on the show, and I'm probably not going to just yet. But, some stories are just too stupid. You've got to get the whole thing out in one go.
Oh, that rock.
That rock.
I forgot about that from last week.
This is teasers for future content, I guess.
Yeah, once it becomes an old story you can laugh about rather than a present headache and possible lawsuit.
No, there's no possibility of a lawsuit.
You say that, but if it was America, there would always be a possibility for
you should not be following the line of logic here, you should be thinking about what makes the story more ridiculous, because that's what's likely to happen.
Yeah. Anywho, Vol, what little bit of week do you have?
Not much. It was a relatively quiet week for me, all told. The first one in a while where the things have just mostly gone to plan without anything truly chaotic happening. Although that's not going to last, since I've now got to start training replacement staff, because we're losing a lot of staff again, unsurprisingly, because that's just... It seems to be happening all over. Unsurprisingly, after giving people a taste of not working, these days people don't want to work at all. Ever.
Yeah, we've effectively lost the entire younger grunt section of the workforce that would be like, your 16-year-olds getting a burger flipping job. Or
Everyone should work a burger flipping job. Everyone.
Or
No,
working the cashier.
I refuse.
Nope.
I went straight into the scientific sector.
Because that's how Karens happen otherwise.
I do agree that it is in general probably good for a person to work that kind of job. My short-term memory especially, is the worst on the planet of any human being. So I never ever attempted to get into fast food.
Yeah, if not fast food, then at least some sort of public-facing job.
I don't like dealing with the public.
No, nobody likes dealing with the public.
I've turned down public-facing roles in the past because
To
I
be
know that I would
fair-
just lose the company. I'd lose the company customers by swearing at them for being retarded.
To be fair, you
Yeah.
kind of served your time by going into academia.
I don't like to think about it because it's not, for me, academia is not just a story of like, oh well, look at all these stupid insane people. It's almost a story of heartbreak, because there was this period once upon a time where the sciences and the study thereof was something aspirational, instead of what it is now, which is this completely devolved political exercise.
Yeah, message
Right.
first, facts maybe.
Like, if you want to get a job in academia, you need to practice writing your diversity statement, because that's the only freaking thing that matters now.
Ugh.
It doesn't matter what insights you have or how you could advance the field or what decisions you make. What matters is your connections and how well you can shill for diversity.
Yeah.
Will you?
Are
you willing to be gay?
It's almost that. It's almost that. Like, are you willing to put on a convincingly mincy gait as you walk in for the interview, so that they think that you're a puff? Because that will significantly improve your chances.
That was unbelievably politically incorrect.
I have heard of this happening in Canada, especially. Like in the cities in Canada, apparently this is incredibly popular to do. It's just to pretend to be gay or trans for the interview.
Ugh.
And
because-
and I think it's probably still against the law to actually favour attributes like that. Like, if you actually have a, quote, diversity, unquote, quotient, which is high enough, it probably means you've broken a law, a discrimination law, because the odds that you can statistically select for such a disproportionately high number of minority groups is very, very low, unless you're applying a certain type of bias, a bias which is illegal in most countries in the West.
Yep, it almost certainly is. But if you want bonus points in the interview, which you can do, we're going to get thrown off YouTube for this one, is you get yourself some Scotch tape and some black paint, and you can be the Asian black trans man.
Why?
Why are you trying to get us fired?
I'm just telling people how to be successful in the world.
I mean, it worked for Justin Trudeau, I guess. He's a prime minister now.
He's also French.
Yeah, he's also, well, Cuban,
Eh.
probably. I'm pretty sure his actual father is Fidel Castro. I mean, come on.
Oh boy, we're going for the full bingo card today, aren't we?
Oh yeah, we've hit.
Have
all
you not
major
seen
topics.
pictures of Fidel Castro when he was younger? He looks exactly like Justin Trudeau.
He's...
Yeah, just so we fill out the bingo card, if you want, Fern. We got.
I don't think Fern wants.
You see, all of this doesn't matter if elections aren't safe and secure. You see,
there it is.
Of which I am dubious that certain elections are. And that's where we'll leave it. Follow me on Discord for my real opinion on that.
Right, anyway, I was going to talk about my week, although I've completely forgot. If I had anything to talk about, it's completely forgotten now. But, yeah, so I had a relatively quiet week all told, but I burned most of that on just playing a bit of FF to get back in the groove. I still want to play Monster Hunter, but I feel like I'm torn in a lot of different directions now. And FF is just more relaxing to play. I've got to be really on my game to not have a real frustrating time with Monster Hunter. So at the end of a long work day is not really the time for it for me. I know that there are a lot of people who look forward to the end of their day and they can play some video and so on and so forth, but I don't have a job that is low mental impact. It's while I do have a certain amount of very manual components to my work, since it is something you do with your hands. Like, I think of myself as a working class person because everything I do involves lifting. It's just I'm lifting small things lots of times. Yes. But the amount of work I do requires my brain to be engaged 110% all day, and that means that I'm usually kind of mentally fatigued by the time I get home and I can only really do simple things. So yeah, I've mainly been doing a bit of FF, and I've mostly taken the week off of FGO because, well, we're on a hunting quest week and I don't care to do any farming after Lotto season. No thank you. The next Gouda Gouda event should be starting very soon though.
Oh no.
Pinecone is in a similar holding pattern. I'm just doing the minimum, doing the stuff that can be done on the dunny, you know, the way it should be played.
Games.
It would be a bigger week for you if you were at level cap, but since you're not there yet, it's just a normal week for you.
Nope, not doing no Reno farming, not doing any of this stuff. I can't really do much other than sort of incrementally improve my roster. Although I'm sort of like tangled in knots right now as to my priorities, because there's like, there's things I want to do, and it's like I could push my sort of frontier pushing teams and try and make more advancements, but at this point I've got like maybe 3 characters that can actually equip things that I don't have access to, and I've got access to better gear than can be equipped by most of my roster. So I think I'm going to have to start backfilling characters at this point. Also, it's like I don't have Carol or Pecorine or Kokoro built at all, and so 6-starring them is a long way away, distant dream. By contrast, Reno has been maxed out, as much maxed out as I can make her reasonably for a long time, including the shards for the 6-star ascension have all been put in as well, the regular shards. But because she's gated behind the other 3 as far as the brutally difficult farming quests are concerned, not making any progress there either. So Pinecone is basically waiting on more double drop rate events, basically.
Thankfully, if you can survive her UB, it is far and away the easiest one of the 3.
But you've got to survive it. You've got to survive it.
Yeah,
you've got to build a team purely to get through that first UB.
Yeah, if you live through it, that whole thing is just a normal stage after that. But you've got to be able to survive at least one UB.
Yeah, you've basically got to have a couple of healers in there, so ready to spam click the UB button to heal up your party. But yeah, so that's still far away, but I think I'm sort of incrementally getting there. I was able to, even though it's an exceptionally easy one, I was able to two-turn to attempt to pass to whatever the very hard on this event, but I have to remember to watch the story so that I can unlock it before the event disappears as well. But yeah, so yeah, I haven't really done very much gaming wise. On a whim, I ended up watching a good chunk of Grinding Gear Games' stream of them making the transition from Stormblood to Shadowbringers, and I did not expect this to be such a frustrating exercise, because it's sort of interesting to experience vicariously the experience of other people playing through the FF storyline, particularly people for like the guys at Grinding Gear and people like Preach and that. People who quite literally built a career out of World of Warcraft and then rebelled after the fact. There are a lot of these people floating around now. And they've all been able to go through the FF storyline, at least in part, and you get to see their reactions. And because you can only go through the story for the first time once, and so it's interesting to watch other people do it, because you can't ever really relive it yourself. You can relive it vicariously through them. So it's interesting to watch as they have, their bad takes on speculation for the future. But what really frustrated me, which really sort of got on my nerves a bit, is they got to the infamous diplomatic scene between the leaders of the Eorzean Alliance and Emperor Varys.
Oh yes, that scene.
And the entire tone of the discussion, both between the hosts of the stream and the chat, immediately devolves into, oh, he's the bad man from Germany.
He's like literally drunk.
All of the no, it wasn't he's literally drunk. It was he's literally Hitler. It was just literally Hitler all the way. And like every crinkle in every brain in the room smoothed out, and they were like, oh, it's obvious who this guy is. It's like, were you paying attention to any of the dialogue? Or are you just that stupid? And I could almost see the IQ plummet in that scene. And then it started a war in the chat with the handful of people who were actually paying attention to the dialogue, saying, look, no, he's not making an argument from a master race. He doesn't think that the Garleans are the master race. He's arguing in favour of the rejoining. He thinks that he can use the Ascians plan to his own benefit. Like, this is the obvious play. This is what he's obviously what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
Just try and convince you that the rejoining is a good idea that will work to their benefit, and that somehow he's got a way that he can pull it off in a way that's not just going to serve the Ascians' ends. But no, everybody in the chat is just like, oh, he's a racismus. He's doing a racism.
Yeah.
The
ultimate point is the preservation of his people.
Well, no, the ultimate point is not the preservation of his people. That would be racismus. The ultimate point is that he wants to preserve everybody.
Yeah.
And he thinks that he can do this by following through on this plan. Because he's not actually that concerned about preserving his people. He does act in his people's interests. He's just decided that this is in his people's interests. And he offers like, oh, work with me, because when this all is done, when the dust all settles, we will all be perfected, we will all be powerful, we will all be able to oppose the Ascians. But the freaking discussion on the matter was so smooth brain. It's, oh no, he's making an argument against other races, so you know this is bad because he doesn't like other races. No, he's not talking about races at all. Where did you get that idea? No, this is all a projection from your smooth brain, complete lack of historical context and understanding, that you've been told by Hollywood and pop culture that you're now going to project the evil Austrian man on this villain because he said something about different peoples.
Yeah.
It was very, very frustrating to hear, and that was only the half of it. The other half of what was frustrating to hear was when I saw the people who understood what was actually being discussed try and bring it up in chat. It became very clear that they were being shut down as stupid racist people, pro-Nazi people. Like, there were actually people accusing the point of view, or the straightforward interpretation of the story of this is his scheme to gain more power in order to take down the Ascians, is by allowing the rejoining to take place. That was interpreted by people in the chat as being a pro-Nazi sentiment.
That's a bit of a stretch there, guys.
Can you imagine what Reddit must have looked like when this patch dropped?
It would have looked like Reddit.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, well,
It would look very Reddit.
it would look like modern Reddit just a little bit before the modern Reddit hit.
Yeah.
It was the most frustrating thing in the world, because you can tell all of these people think that they've made some like big brain interpretation of the scene as well.
Super astute observation that clearly they are smart because they understand the allegory to the Hitler man.
Yeah, that all the big brain soy jack. Like, it was deeply annoying to me. It's like, oh come on, this story is so good, and you think that they went for that?
Yeah,
You
they're
think
better
they-
writers
they-
than that.
You think you're going for the Hitler allegory? What do you think this is? Attack on Titan?
No.
I mean, yeah, that
fired
one.
there.
There is no skirting around that one. That is
No,
just a straight World War
it's
II.
just straight up.
Like it is the most blatant and offensively overt thing I've seen.
But the same people will defend it and say, no, it's not.
Oh no, they'll see that one too. The thing is, these people, they are so historically illiterate because our history classes now only teach World War II as the only significant conflict to happen in recent history, and they focus on it so much, and they still toe the propaganda line so hard that you must tell the kids that Hitler bad, that it gets so ingrained in people. Anytime they see a bad man who is at the head of a country, they can't comprehend it's anything else but Hitler, is my theory on it.
Well, it's not even if you see a bad man. It's just if you see the man that the media have told you you're supposed to hate.
Yeah, it's
If it was about a bad man, they wouldn't have all seen Trump as Hitler as well.
yeah.
But
Well, the way the media told stories about him, you'd think he was a bad man if you just listened to some of what they said. Never mind, none of that stuff ever actually turned up or was real.
yeah. Well, at any rate, it was a very frustrating experience because like I would have liked to think that the FF community had more brains than this, because they've like the FF story is good eating as far as story is concerned, and all of these people have been stewing in it. And it's just like I could almost hear brains shutting down as the scene started to play out.
Like, I think that scene does have issues, but they're in presentation, not in storytelling.
I think that the presentation is still a step up from a lot of their previous table scenes.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
FF does love its table scenes, where everybody sits around a table and has a chat. But I think that there's a lot of things to commend that scene, especially considering they were going for something that's quite difficult. But
I think it was still one of the stronger scenes in Stormblood, because I don't have a super high opinion of Stormblood, TBH.
nobody does. Like it's the one that everybody looks down on, generally speaking. I think that Stormblood has very high highs and very low lows. I think on average it's still quite good. It's just that it's not average the entire time. But
Yeah.
and they also take on a lot of aspects of plot that other stories of a similar layout tend to avoid, like the fact that nobody actually wants to rebel because it'll just get them killed.
Yeah,
Like
and
that's not bothered with in a lot of other similar stories.
trying to divide our attention between two different zones.
Well, I mean,
was,
this is all symptoms of having two writers who write the story separately and then are expected to smush them together. But yeah, it's really frustrating seeing it played out in front of me. How little people thought about it. Their minds immediately snapped to this template, and then they started projecting on the scene things that weren't actually in the scene.
Yeah.
Like it almost seemed to me like the people in the chat, because a lot of the people watching, most of the people watching, have seen it all before, right? But what they remember being said, a lot of it wasn't said. It was all, mirrorismus that was happening in their brains, because they had overlaid this other story on top of it. Like, I mean, yeah, Hitler was a bad man and all, but the reality is that Hitler is a symptom of a disease. He's not the disease itself. You can't just make one crazy Austrian the central focus of the entirety of the 20th century.
Yeah.
And then have that be your only historical knowledge.
I think another part of it is there's so many hack writers, I suppose, out there that if they had a villain like the Emperor, they would have immediately gone for the Hitler reference, no questions asked, and people wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's such an easy way, because you know that instinct has been implanted in people's consciousness now, and you can activate those circuits.
Mm-hmm.
And it's totally uninteresting to do so, but people will do it because it's easy.
It's been done so many times.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that we'll ever get to the point where people were able to look objectively at that phase of history and see like the role that the Allied nations played in that catastrophe for what it is. It's like, I mean, yes, Hitler was evil. Yes, he butchered countless people. It's true. However, it was the Allies that dropped 2 atom bombs on Japan. It was the Allies who burned Dresden. It was the Allies who burned Tokyo. Like, you can't just forget all of that stuff because the bad man on the other side is really bad. The history is not so one-sided in reality.
Yep.
We just, we were the victors. So we wrote the histories.
Yeah, maybe in a post-UN world, we can finally stop and have a big thunk about some things that happened around that time. After we're all dead.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we won't live to see this become archaeology rather than history. So, which is probably what will be necessary, and it'll be interesting to see what interpretations might be come up with from an archaeological perspective. When the archaeologists won't have the mainstream media around to tell them what to think about the past.
Man,
yeah, it was an interesting experience seeing this sort of like a popular thought phenomenon get projected on a dramatic scene from the outside, and things that were never in the scene to begin with are suddenly in the scene because everybody has framed it in a particular context that is not the context that the story actually has.
Yeah.
Because I mean, at no point does anybody does Varys the Emperor at any point single out any particular race as being fundamentally inferior. The Garleans probably do think that way because they think of the other civilizations as barbaric. It's true, but at no point is there any kind of like argument made that this is the natural result of heritage, that some races are better than other races. He never contends that at any point in the story that I can remember.
It's also, whenever the Garleans refer to the others as barbaric, they never refer to them along racial lines. It's always along nationality lines.
Yeah, because ultimately they were driven out of their homes by barbarians. Like, there's no superiority or inferiority here. They do have a sense that they are justified because of how they were treated.
They have
how
genuine
their
beef.
nation was treated in the past. But at no point is there this master race argument being made. At no point is there any eugenic argument being made. The argument that the Emperor makes is simply that every race is incomplete because of the sundering, and they need to be remade in their original perfect form in order to have the strength required to create the utopian civilization that he believes is their destiny.
Yeah,
which is exactly what he's been told to think by his progenitor,
by his Emek Selk.
Yeah, by his pet Ascian, who is totally manipulating him every step of the way.
Yeah.
Because contention, if we do exactly what the bad guys say, we will somehow win in the end.
Yeah, and the whole point of the scene is really to get get his point of view across, and he actually does make points that not only gets the audience questioning, are we doing the right thing? It gets the other leaders questioning that as well.
Well, what breaks the other leaders, and this should be the thing that tips you off you're looking at it wrong, if you are in the audience and you're on the Hitler racismus train, is that the leaders don't object to his theories. They object to the idea that it would be okay to allow calamities to happen toward this end.
Yeah, it's a question of the methods rather than the outcome he desires.
Yeah, none of them say, "Oh no, there is no master race." I mean, they do talk about different peoples compensating for each other's weaknesses and strengths as a complementarity of nations and whatnot. But they aren't denouncing his idea that oh well, together we are strong, type of thing. They just say, no, when you say it, you mean it a little bit too literally for our tastes.
Yeah, it's and I bet you dollars to donuts most of the people that are watching that stream are your typical California lefty who these people cannot see the world through another person's point of view. They can't even they don't even try to because it's just completely alien to them is what I've noticed with the California lefty types.
I don't think it's even that, honestly, in this case. It's just collective smooth brain.
Yeah, I think this is just the shallow thinking of lots of people in one place and the peer pressure that causes people to conform. Because like I said, they were actively suppressing people who were trying to be more thoughtful about the scene in the chat. Yeah. And then any time anybody said, no, but what you're saying doesn't have anything to do with what was being said in the scene, they would then get accused of not being able to read the vibe, whatever that's supposed to mean.
I'm pretty sure a vibe would be individual anyway. But it would be something that, you can't share with other people.
Yeah, in this case, that's a projection.
Yeah, there's a very, very apt saying, and that is the average or the intelligence of any given group of people is
the intelligence of a mob is the average intelligence divided by the number of mobsters.
Yes, it's the intelligence of the stupidest person in the group.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, there we go. We got there in the end.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Was that from Nightwatch?
Might have been.
I think it was from a Discworld book.
I have to look that up actually, but
I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, it's a very, very true statement, and it goes double on the internet, honestly.
Oh yeah,
where all consequences are off. But yeah, so that was something that I ran into this week because I do enjoy watching people enjoy things that I like it's but then to watch them just put it through the smooth brain ringer like that was really frustrating to me.
Yeah
this is why I've stopped watching people play through or do any kind of narrative content on their channels, especially for stuff that I like, because I just know
because it takes too smooth brain.
Yeah, they won't have thunk about it at all. They might be, the level I was at in college, which was early college, which was still pretty stupid.
Yeah, I think that the reason why it caught my attention was not because they take a smooth brain, but how quickly the gears just shifted from actually thinking carefully about the content to suddenly brain is switched off. It's the Hitler racism storyline. But it wasn't that they weren't ever thinking, it was that the thinking shut down as soon as they made that conclusion. But yeah, that was a thing. That was a thing that happened this week. Did any other things of note happen this week? I didn't talk about it last week, although it was part of last week's news, but I have rectified the problem with the overheating of my CPU.
Ah, yes.
I picked up a new cooler and installed it on my you can fry an egg on it CPU. I'm not quite sure what was wrong. Maybe it's entirely possible that the old heatsink would have been enough, but it was mounted properly. The problem is that Intel stock heatsinks are very difficult to A, mount properly, and B, tell whether or not you have mounted them properly, because the push-pin hole system is extremely fickle and very hard to do right. Because to apply a heatsink using push-pins to a motherboard is something that requires you to apply direct physical force to a computer component. And I don't know about you guys, but I am always very reluctant to do that.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah. So that problem was solved. So I'm now no longer idling at 50 degrees and then hitting like 90 degrees at 20% load. Instead, like I think now I'm on 15% playing FF here, and it's at 46 degrees. And when I'm idling, it's at between 25 and 30 degrees normally.
Yeah, that's much better.
Significantly cooler, especially considering this generation of CPUs has a reputation for running extremely hot under the best of circumstances. But yeah, so that problem is thankfully solved, and I can stop worrying about it.
Was it causing any performance or throttling problems for you?
I think my suspicion is that it was causing throttling problems, because occasionally I would see things slowing down that shouldn't be slowing down because they're like old or whatever. But yeah, I'm not having any such problems anymore. So I'm gonna call it a win. That problem is now solved. Don't need to think about it. Because it is the case that if you exceed about 90 degrees on a CPU, a modern CPU, it will automatically throttle the amount of voltage and your power will go down.
If it doesn't just outright shut down.
Yeah, it never did that. But the fact that it never did that suggests that it was in fact throttling very aggressively.
Mm.
So yeah, problem solved. And I didn't destroy anything despite several little mishaps in the process. I didn't destroy anything in a way that is obvious. Although I did have several heart attacks because of the way I did it. It resulted in my PC thinking I had installed a new CPU, and therefore it didn't boot when I turned it on. Because it was demanding various things be changed in the BIOS, or reviewed at least. So I didn't nearly have a heart attack because it didn't boot. But then we got there in the end. But, yeah, so that's all good now, and I have an absolutely humongoid heatsink installed now. It's normal by heatsink standards, but it looks humongous to me because I've historically always used stock ones. And the stock cooler is a lot smaller than I thought. Because when I looked at it really closely, I realised that a lot of the fins on it are made of plastic. And that a very small heatsink is embedded in the centre of this web of plastic. I don't know why they have used plastic to make it look bigger, probably to save on materials costs, while still not looking like it's too small.
Make it look nice.
Yeah, it's a very small cooler compared to what I'm used to. The one that comes stock with AMD CPUs is significantly larger in terms of. I don't know if it is necessarily larger, but it does give me the impression of being larger. As I now know, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Yeah. So the new one, on the other hand, is pretty chunky. It takes up pretty much all the available real estate in the case that is immediately above the CPU, and then some. I think I've got probably about a few millimeters of clearance to actually shut the lid on the thing. But it seems to be doing the job nice and keeping it nice and frosty. So yeah, I'm not. I thought about going for the closed loop liquid cooling solution that's so popular. You know, the kind where there's a couple of hoses and a cooling block attached to a big radiator that you install in the case, which the fan's built into it. That's the popular way of doing cooling these days. Then I decided A, it was unnecessary because I don't give a toss about overclocking, and B, I already went out of my way to build this case to be quiet and compact. I don't need to install that extra crap in it, thanks. So, yeah, now my system is a lot cooler, and the fan doesn't sound like a jet engine. When you can hear the CPU fan over the sound of the GPU fan, you usually have done something wrong. Because the GPU should be the one that is needing to disperse the heat most of the time when you're doing a graphically intensive thing rather than pure number crunching. So yeah, my GPU unfortunately does burn 81 degrees at 100% load all the time anytime I'm playing FF. Like, it's not a recent not a recent device. It's about 7 years old. The poor thing, it's doing its best. I would love to let it go into retirement. However, I'm not made of money, and yeah, I need those prices to come down. It'd be nice to get one before the currency gets abolished, though.
Yeah.
But that's a project for another time. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I don't have much else to talk about, and my tongue's really starting to hurt.
Okay, we should probably take a break then.
Alright, when we come back, we will discuss some of my week, and we'll we'll flip over to my screen to better demonstrate what I'll be talking about. We'll be right back after some music. And we're back.
Yes. Whoops. I seem to be picking up an awful lot of air movement noise.
In where?
In my microphone. So while I sort that out, get going.
Right. So I didn't hear any air from him, but I guess his recording software might. Vol, we were at the end of your week. You done with your week?
Yeah, I did also spend a good amount of time playing a clicker game through to its completion, but
yeah, not
I won't talk about that other than to say that it's a reskin of the clicker game Paperclip Maximizer, and that if I were to talk about anything that happened in that game on the show, we would probably be off the air. I might in fact get arrested. So,
yeah, I've already made sure we're already thrown off the internet forever. We'll have to go hang out with the farms or something.
Do you hate me?
In the dark sections of the dark web.
Are the farms up at the moment? Is that a thing?
They're up and then they're down. They're up and then they're down. They're up and then they're down. Josh is trying. Josh has family issues for this week and next week that he has to deal with, and he has to physically mess with the tech and find some way to host this stuff. And he's having a few shoes, but he's trying. I think they've been up in. They lost their old domain because Cloudflare booted them. and then they had their backup Russian domain, and then they got booted from that one for some reason, and then they're currently on .top, and I don't know what domain that is.
I've never heard of that one.
I think it's Chinese.
I see.
So Noel's trying. He'll get it back when he can. And it's up and it's down. I think the top one's actually loading right now, or is trying to. It found the website this time, at least. Oh, yeah. You can if you're wondering what I'm talking about, there's a website that I can't say the name of because Vol's government has made it. What's a good word for it?
Heresy.
Verboten.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Because I'm not kidding. They've arrested people for just mentioning the farms. So I cannot have him implicated in knowing somebody that posts regularly there or semi-regularly there. So yeah.
So .top is owned by Jiangsu Bangning Science and Technology Company in Nanjing, China.
So yeah, it's a Chinese one. He now has a .st link because the top one wasn't working, and this one appears not to be working anymore either. He's trying. So this is where, ever since the Vic Mignogna stuff started, and I really discovered the site, I have been using this website to go get my news and my internet commentary, and see the general autism that the internet produces in its full glory. Except it's wearing a suit this time instead of being, in its underpants with its actual pants on its head like 4chan.
At least most of the time.
Yeah, so you can. It has a lot of tools for filtering out the hyperspezes who come on there and just word vomit a whole bunch of garbage. And it has a rating system for posts and stuff, and they organize the threads. And they actively police off-topic discussion, and they don't delete it, but they dump it in the Spurgatory in a separate thread and let people continue having their slap fight in a totally isolated thread somewhere else on the board.
That's a containment thread.
Mm-hmm. So, and they'll thread ban the person for 2 days after they drag it off topic and start having slap fights. And that way, if they try and check it, they'll realize what happened and can continue. But they can continue their Spurgen in the containment thing as much as they want. So yeah, I've been out of the loop for real world news pretty hard with the farms down, because I've come to trust it a lot more than most any news institution that's out there. Because seeing
the bar is not really very high to be more trustworthy than mainstream news.
Yeah, well, when you have a whole bunch of autists on the farms, and they're from all over the political spectrum, hyper-analyzing every little detail, you get to see both sides directly clashing with each other, which is not something you get to see on anywhere else on the internet.
Having slap fights.
Yeah. And you get to see who's winning on merit and who's just name-calling, and who has the evidence and who doesn't, and who's got the links to the archives and who doesn't. And it makes it very easy to... Well, it makes it much easier. It's still not easy, but it makes it easier to parse out what parts of a story are true when a story hits the mainstream.
Also, you won't have to put up with people shutting down the conversation by accusing someone of doing a racismus. Like, yeah, that will just get you laughed at.
Yeah, they'll actively mock you for that. So you won't have that on the farms. And they've been a very useful resource. Anytime a legal filing comes out, especially, where I just do not know how to interpret some of these things and what the implications could be, there's a whole lot of legal autists there that love picking apart these things. And will explain them in detail, and you'll see them argue with each other, and you'll see which ones come to a consensus and which ones don't. So, but with them gone, I have nowhere to go to laugh at dumb internet people and get my news from. Except for, maybe .win and maybe and whatever crosses the mainstream podcast feeds.
And also, basically, they got shut down by one of the worst people on the planet.
Yeah, they got shut down by a person who was making homemade bathtub distributing homemade bathtub hormone replacement therapy to children and teaching the kids how to hide it from their parents.
Oh, and running a Discord to try and groom people into wanting it.
Yeah. Just the Keffels dude that is currently leading the charge against them is probably one of the most disgusting human beings ever.
They're one of those people who, their just destiny is the inside of a wood chipper.
Yeah, you guys think Hitler's bad. I think he's quite a few rungs below this guy. And I'm not even exaggerating. So,
you are
I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating a very tiny bit, but only because Hitler has a bigger kill count.
Oh, boy.
But so yeah, it's quite bad with that. So I don't have any real world stuff to really talk about aside from work, which has been very busy. And without a website to go to make fun of the government on, I have just been stewing in my rage at the government as I do taxes for a small business. I'm feeling another Monster Hunter International re-listen to coming up in my near future.
I always get the feeling that one of the primary purposes of taxes is to destroy small business, just to make it not worth doing.
Oh yeah, like you're gonna crush somebody at that business's soul doing it, unless they're like me and just somehow find a way to muscle through it while still doing their normal work routine. And I'm convinced it is divine intervention. God, please stop my hand, because I don't think I can stop it myself if a government agent ever comes up to me and says hello.
It's just, it seems like this whole centralized taxation phenomenon is just it's so perfectly calibrated to just run roughshod over the small businesses. Yeah. It doesn't affect the really big businesses because they find ways of getting out of it. Number one, they can afford people to do it for them, and number two, a lot of them don't pay tax to begin with because they found ways to move it offshore. But small business, on the other hand, they get them coming and going.
Yeah, you got 2 to 15 employees. Good luck. One of them people is going to have to bite the bullet and do this. And unless they have a very unique breed of autism, which is at least in the family of whatever I could self-diagnose myself with, where you can just hyper-focus on it and just go, I just need to get this done. I just need to get this done. And just do it as quickly and accurately as possible and just keep going like the Energizer Bunny. It's soul-crushing to have it hanging over your head the whole month that you're doing it and having to go stop what you're doing and go figure out what else the government wants. Because the whole time, it's just, especially in the small business, everybody feels the hit when profits are down. And you can just feel the government just taking your money. There's no positive part of doing stuff for the government.
Feel their hand reaching into your pocket.
Everything you have to write as something you can't write off as a business expense, just like the government's coming for part of that. They're going to make me pay again for it. I hate the government.
The Opossums DLC purchases.
None of those this time, although... I did have to throw a few loans on there. He, quote, accidentally, unquote, used the reward points on the Amazon, or on the Amex card for personal purchases on Amazon.
How do you accidentally do that? In my experience, it's actually you've got to really go out of your way to claim the rewards points on my credit card.
They don't make it easy because that means they're giving you stuff.
Yeah, and it was like iPhone cases and a new Apple Watch band, and he got himself some kind of thing for his car, and I'm just
he really doesn't learn lessons.
I'm like, I got to write all this as a loan to you, right? It's like, but I paid with reward points anyway. It does not matter. It has to be categorized. That charge has to have a category next to it, because if we get audited, the government's going to come in and say, where was this charge on your report? And right now, my CPA is telling me the IRS is being super zealous, so we need to cross our T's and dot our I's. Boy just doesn't learn. So, probably because I don't take it out of his hide, because the only thing that would happen is his kids wouldn't get food, or his kid, the only one I care about. The other one, I don't really.
Yeah, the other one, he's not really worth feeding. let him go scrounge food for himself. He might learn something.
And
Yeah, that's
another tick.
That's a real good motivator. If you need to feed yourself, you learn responsibility real fast.
Yeah, you don't spend literally all of your discretionary income on cigarettes.
And booze, and weed, and video games, and Ouija boards that I have to go in there and throw in the trash can.
Wait, what?
This is a very
real waster. He's just a real waster. You know the kind.
Yeah,
never really had to take responsibility for anything.
Somebody that is mentally stunted enough to remain a child effectively without being disabled has no responsibility. The other one's a normal kid, just got out of high school a year and a half ago, and he's working a job at Publix and has been working there basically since he got out of high school, and has a fairly normal young adult life as he figures out what he wants to do. So that one's fine. That one's going to help me move furniture later when I have to move furniture back into the room of my parents, which I was tired from last week.
When you prevent your father from moving the furniture.
Yeah, because I am still relatively young, in my early 30s, but I ain't strong enough to move a bed by myself. Even if I was, it's too big. I need somebody else to help me steer it.
I pay people to do that these days. I used to move my bed by myself, but it takes so long to do on your own that yeah, I don't like to move house that way anymore.
Yeah, we had to get all the furniture out of my parents' room so they could come in and resand the floors and take up the old floor tile and put down new floor tile because it got water damage, so the floor got warped. It had a wavy feel to it when you rubbed your feet against it, and it was making my mama slip on it. So my dad decided to just get the floor fixed, and insurance said, yeah, you can totally claim that, which I told him was probably a dumb idea because his insurance rate's going to go up, but he did it anyway. And they came in and they fixed the floor, and now they got to repaint the baseboard, and they're doing that on Monday. So at some point next week, got to move all that furniture back. But hopefully it won't be on the weekend again, so I won't be drop dead tired as soon as the show starts. And that's really it for real life stuff. Just a big pain in the butt all around in real life. And this has left me very tired when I get home. Have not got on to do anything in Final Fantasy. Did one day of roulettes this week. And today in roulettes, and that's all the Final Fantasy I've done.
I haven't done roulettes in months because I don't really like doing them by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I sign on, there will be a Discord message waiting from Ibu to go roulettes ? And I have to be like, yeah. Job.
We did, however, do the new raid content.
Yes, we did. We did do that on I count the weekends as kind of a separate thing from the week, and I forget things that happen on them sometimes.
Yeah.
So you got to do all the new raids. Did anything stand out to you before we get too deep into my week?
Okay, so it was a lot of good content in there during the next section of Pandemonium. So we'll go in order. The first boss was Spolkarbi. Not what I quite expected. I was expecting something even sillier, but anyway. Yeah, nothing too outrageous in that fight. It's not exactly an introductory level fight, but it's a nice solid fight. Everything seems to work how you expect it to. I think I only died once in that because I misread a tell.
Oh yeah, you just stood and ate something.
Yeah, it was when he's doing the bit where he's swapping the tiles around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I misread where the save spot was going to end up. So that's a good fight.
Yeah, he's a intro boss. I don't have particularly. I won't have many thoughts on him after he is not current content. I'll probably forget he exists.
Yeah.
But he was okay.
Yeah. The second boss, I've actually kind of forgotten all about it already.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard. It didn't really leave any sort of lasting impact. It was it was the worms.
Yeah, long worm, short worm.
Long worm, short worm. basically, as long as you know that when you have worm, you point away from the raid until the worm does its blah and it jumps off you. That's basically all you need to know for her. Unfortunately, both Ari and I got lasered because someone else in the raid had a smooth brain moment and had their worm blah over the raid.
Oh, in normal, that's not a lethal mechanic. So.
Yeah. And then, after that, we hit the third boss. And oh man.
And you chose to follow me.
I followed Vol, which isn't a good idea at the best of times.
It's like, listen. I can't do mechanics properly. Even if I landed them, there's a chance that I will survive because I'm a tank with tank cooldowns.
Yeah.
You are not a tank.
I am not a tank. No, it was more that I was the case of trying to find the safe spot. There's someone over there who looks like they know what they're doing. And then I got close, and then I realised it was Vol.
If there's just like one person, then either they know what they're doing and the group is going to wipe, or
they have no idea what they're doing.
Know what they're doing because that's why they're by themselves.
Yeah. But that boss has so many different mechanics and tells and very limited space in which to dodge.
It's not really that there are that many different mechanics and tells, it's that they are always overlapping with something.
Yes.
And it's just eventually somebody's going to have a minor brain aneurysm and get hit by multiple things, and that's going to be all she wrote. And you just got to figure it out from there.
Yep.
And you just got to keep resin people. Because once one thing falls apart and somebody messes something up, what's going to happen is the healers now have to split their attention between getting the dead guy back alive and doing normal healing. There's a lot of damage going out in that fight.
Yep.
And then you got what you're going to get next is the DPS are just going to keep chain dying because they're going to start making mistakes and because other people are and following the wrong person.
Yes. There's a lot to be said for rhythm, I think, in that fight. Is once you find your groove and you can kind of get in the pattern and follow everything along nicely, you'll be okay. But the moment you lose that rhythm, yeah, you're going to get smooshed.
Yeah, well, most Final Fantasy fights are like that, where you can get in on a roll in a fight and just do the thing without thinking.
You find your groove.
That fight in particular feels like it's especially going to go really well or really bad, just because your attention doesn't get as divided if it just stays on doing the mechanics right and everybody's always doing them right.
I think it's because it's one of those fights that is, while you're right that you can often get on a roll and just naturally seem to dance around mechanics, I think that fight really helps you do the exact opposite, where when things start to go bad, they start to snowball.
Yes.
And it usually happens whenever she does the melee attack, either the hugger or the run away from her.
Yeah.
But it's because your eyes are not going to be looking at the boss when she's doing her other attacks.
You're too busy looking at everything else that's going on. She's doing the goats, so I need to get over here, and now they get up from the lasers, and oh no, she just smushed me.
Yeah, so the boost is just she's real good at dividing your attention, and as long as everybody's attention stays, in the fight, and we're all good, everything's okay. But as soon as those hands go up, there's a lot of stuff to look at all over the arena in that fight. It's very, very easy to get smooth brain for a second and get distracted by something.
And even just missing watching the boss lift her hands is all it takes.
Yeah. And
also, the hands, you can see what the hands are doing. That also, I don't know what it's like for you, because I know the camera behaves a little bit differently for controller players, but the hands are always on the very periphery of the screen for me. They're never in the center of my field of view.
Except
you
for that
can
first
only ever
rotation.
see them peripherally.
They could be for me if I so chose to focus my camera in such a way to remember to do it, but it's not setting that camera up in a way where it can, the way I normally handle the camera with a controller, it actually makes it even worse. Because I spin that camera all over the place, but I keep it at a very strict y-axis and rarely move it out of that y-axis.
Yeah.
So seeing where her hands are above her head is something I had to manually adjust to every single time.
So yeah, that fight was just an absolute disaster, but we got through it eventually.
Yeah, and I really like that about their normal difficulty system. I think that this is by far and away a better way of doing it than LFR in World of Warcraft, where they just nerfed the fight to irrelevance.
Mm.
So, oh, well, none of the mechanics mean anything, so we'll stand in all of them. No. You are still going to get wiped by this if everybody gets hit in FF, but if you don't get all the way wiped, there are very, very many ways to recover the situation, and the more times you recover, the better you will get at doing the fight.
Like when we had to almost heal a limit break twice.
Yes.
I almost got to push the astral stasis button twice in the fight.
Well, I mean, I consider that to be a plus because then I get to see the sparkles again, and I do.
It is
enjoy
very
the
sparkly.
sparkles.
It's very, very pretty.
Like it's my favorite, probably my favorite healer limit break is getting to see the sparkles go up.
Yeah,
Generally seeing a healer limit break go off nose means you've really cocked something up, but
everybody but like 2 people were dead when I pushed it the first time.
yeah,
And most of the raid was dead when was almost available the second time, and we managed to get everybody back alive and breathing before I needed to push it a third time, and we killed the boss right before the limit bar filled up again.
yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, I always get a little bit jelly when I see it because it looks so cool, and I can't do that. If, one of the many things that would be on my wish list if I could ever just beg Yoshi P to do stuff would be to redo the graphics for Land Waker because they look awful.
Alright. So, and then we move on to the 4th boss, who, honestly, after that nightmare of a 3rd boss, felt kind of like a freebie.
Well, yeah, because we're doing phase 1 of the fight.
Yeah,
just phase.
We weren't
1.
doing phase Savage, so we only got to see half the fights. Where, the second phase he mutates in an extremely painful way.
He goes full Resident Evil on you.
Yeah, it's really quite disturbing, actually. But his fight, like, it felt so much more organized over the second boss, or the 3rd boss.
Well, that 3rd boss in particular, your attention is divided so many places, and it's such a huge step up in relative difficulty for normal mode to everything else. That
It's sort of like you're fighting 2 radically different types of bosses at a time in that 3rd fight, because you're fighting the wall boss and it does its wall boss things, but you're also sort of fighting the stage that you're on
because it keeps changing shape.
Yeah, it keeps changing shape. It will spawn things in 3 different locations that all have their own opinions on where you should be at any given point in time, and so on and so forth. So it's very you're not just doing one thing; you're doing several different chores at once. Whereas there's a much stronger connection to the boss itself of all the things that the boss does in the 4th boss. He's just a boss that does attacks, and I mean some of them involve the stage. It's true, but the stage itself isn't going to be busy doing things to you out of eyeshot.
Yeah, the game board itself ain't trying to kill you as hard as except for maybe when the snakes show up, as hard as a tree boss. But it's just don't stand in the yuck. And after tree boss, it's just don't stand in the yuck.
Yeah, he did have a rather weird love of doing only one sort of attack where he's supposed to be able to do 2. Like, he kept using his snake attack rather than the phoenix attack over and over and over. But
he did use one phoenix again at the very end.
Yeah, he used it again at the end, and that was it.
Suck it, Dante.
So, yeah,
that's just
times.
the luck of the draw there. So,
but I managed to nab a couple of pieces of gear out of that. So,
yeah, I haven't been again yet this week.
Yeah,
I haven't done mine yet either. I'll need to do them at some point.
Yeah, the story that is attached to it is also very interesting. You had what was originally portrayed to you as a very loving, nurturing character turn out to be an absolute
Well, it was
monster.
from an unreliable narrator, though, right?
Yes. Someone whose opinion is very, very skewed. Not through any fault of his own, but...
It's been 3 weeks and we've all done it now. We can just say their names.
Well, no, we can't because they're unpronounceable.
Well, we can say their nicknames.
So yeah, Eric has this very high opinion of his mother, and he wants to get her back because she's busy being dead right now. But yeah, as it turns out, she's not the saintly person that he was allowed to believe she was.
Yes, she was actually cray-cray.
She was completely and utterly bonkers.
Her name was Athena, I
Yes.
think?
It was Athena. That fits with the
Greek
law,
naming.
the Greek law, because the Eryxthenos was the child of Athena and Hephaestus.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of although it's sort of in the Greek law, it's sort of a bit ambiguous as to whether Athena was really that interested in Hephaestus or not.
Given that she's a Greek god, probably not.
Well, it's well, Hephaestus was a Greek god too, but he was a Greek god to the forge, not exactly, and he doesn't have the same promiscuous reputation that, say, like, Big Daddy Zeus does in the West.
Yeah.
He's just forge bro for the most part, and doesn't have any kind of Western connotations about it. I didn't actually know the myth very well of Athena and Hephaestus' kid. I was vaguely aware it existed.
I
had
don't
to go
think
look it up afterwards.
I don't think that there is like a single tradition about it. It's not very well codified.
Yeah, so I actually had to go look it up to see what the deal with that was.
Yeah. So yeah, I like how they're following along kind of the Greek myth theme, keeping that going.
Speculations are wild right now, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stinger.
That stinger, yo.
Like it's more like they almost lull you into a sense that the story is over. Almost. Do you get that feeling?
Yeah, but we still got two wings to
It's
go.
almost like they're rounding it out. Oh, but there's another raid tier to go still.
Two.
And they can't just end the story here, and they won't start another one. So
what are they doing?
Yeah, that means that the story is not actually over. That crystal is still going to that Chekhov's gun hasn't been used yet, and the boss has gone missing, looking for something.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what the heck he thinks he's doing. No one knows exactly where he is.
We've had a character who's been revealed to be an absolute monster, so there's no way she's not going to turn up.
Yeah, if she's like a super genius, there's no way she doesn't have plans within plans within plans.
And
I don't feel like the ultimate goal of this raid series has been accomplished, because the ultimate goal really is to stop La Habrea from being a moustache twirler.
Yeah,
that's the impression I get. Because, I mean, La Habrea is the most primitively written of the Ascians, because it was done way back when, right? So, there's a lot of work to be done to bring his character up to par with Elidibus, with Emmett Selk, the other sort of the big dogs in that particular convocation. And La Habrea's character really looks saggy at the moment, and in the way that he has been shown in the first two tiers of the raid, the story arc is not brought to completion yet. He hasn't become the La Habrea we know, and alternatively, they haven't established any kind of sort of timeline branching point that would make him different.
Yeah, so if it might be someone else wearing the mantle of La Habrea. It could be that something massive changes with him. We don't know at this point.
Athena possesses him.
Yeah. Actually, the Athena is probably closer to the one we're familiar with. So I don't know. Maybe you're onto something.
There's this whole thing about them merging personalities and all that.
Yeah.
Like there's clearly there are parts of Athena that are left inside Hephaestus.
We shall have to wait and see.
And there are also sort of like there's sort of storyline stingers that are embedded in the Savage version of the fight, which is unusual because they don't normally do that, at least not to this extent.
Yeah, normally they consider that to be kind of a dick move.
The objective was to perfect perfect resurrection, right, as one of their objectives in their ascent to godhood. And they do that. It's like in the final phase of the final fight in Savage, that happens. The boss manages to kill the entire party and then resurrect them without restrictions, without degradation, without any drawbacks. A perfect resurrection. So, yeah. Heaven's Feel from the Type Moon universe.
Yeah.
Manages to accomplish it. And that's a plot point. That's got plot point written all over it.
Yep.
That they managed to accomplish that at the end. And also, you know, there's that crystal again. Nobody knows what it is or why it's there. Chekhov's gun has to be fired before the end of the plot.
Something's got to happen.
Yeah, so it's sort of interesting how they've managed to sort of lull people into thinking the story is just about to close out, but there's actually this whole other... There's all the pieces are still in play. Nobody has actually been taken off the board for sure.
Yeah. We shall see. It wouldn't be the first time they pulled something completely out left field either.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll have to see this story in full before I give it a full judgment, I think, because there's too many moving parts to it.
Yep.
I think it's that they're all moving very slowly and subtly, and so it's impossible to tell what direction they're headed.
Yeah, it's entirely possible there's some hint or some, you know, little plot point that will change everything that everyone's completely overlooking at this point. So you never know.
I find it hard to believe that anything's been overlooked. I think a lot of people may. It's possible they've been interpreted the wrong way, but people are really tearing this one apart. Eh? Once it dawns on the chronic speculators that they were being tricked into thinking the story is over, then they start really ripping it apart.
Yeah. All right. Where were we?
You cut in because we got Final Fantasy that we did.
So that's basically it for that. The boss has happened.
Yeah. Yep. Now we just got to wait for Fern to have time to get caught up on the story so we can do the last boss of the patch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a very, very frantic fight.
Yeah, another one.
I found it quite fun. It is, in my opinion, if you pay attention to the patterns that they've followed historically, where dungeons tend to presage to some extent boss mechanics. Everything is sight readable, more or less, but you will be given a lot of reading to do.
It's a stupidly high APM encounter, which is you were actually in the Discord when me and Abo were doing this on day one, weren't you, Fern?
I think I was, but I tuned it out to avoid spoilers.
Yeah, we deliberately used euphemisms and didn't mention the names of stuff, but
there was plentiful screaming.
Yeah, there was a lot of people dying. There was no guide out yet. Nobody had done this before, and it was day one, and everybody was just like, "Oh boy, that's a lot of crap going on." And
I think it's just that people were panicky because it was new content, not because any of the content was difficult. Because I don't think it benefits that much from a guide.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's what I would call a difficult encounter. It is just a.
I bet on Savage it is freaking murder.
Oh,
yeah, it's
on extreme mode. The extreme is going to be something else.
Yeah, its APM is just through the roof. Like you just got to do so much crap in that fight. So yeah.
All right.
That's those video games for what we're doing with that stuff. And I guess I can talk about what solo game I've been playing, since I've been too tired to really do anything. And the Final Fantasy accounted for only Sunday and a few days of roulettes, so it wasn't actually that much of my gaming time. Pinecone did get a new patch, a big patch for those of us at in-game. The new rank came out with the new story chapters and the new story chapters for the actual quests that you can go do, and the new hard quests to do.
Do you mean to say you actually got caught up on the story?
No, I haven't read the story yet, but I did the gameplay chapters. Nenica has completely trivialized new content, and I think she will for a while. Just when in doubt, throw Nenica at it. And usually that's the right answer.
I'm cool with that. I've got a lot of catching up to do, and Nenica is making it a lot smoother than it would have been otherwise for a person who has no other powerful casters.
Yeah, Nenica just is a absolute monster.
Because when it comes to casting, if you're a new player, the only solution available to you by default is Carol, and you're not going to be able to get her to the real power hitter level in anytime soon. So I feel like, generally speaking, the problem of new players still hasn't been solved.
Yeah, they've got to just make more casters available sooner, and make them easier to get rolling right away with. Oh, finally S that mission. How about that?
Nice.
I mean, you always say, oh well, you shouldn't underestimate Akari's power as a offensive caster.
No, I mean that in the position of she is there to fill slots in the caster's team while you're building up.
I know that, but it is still true that she does have a certain amount of grunt. The problem is that nothing in the game frames her as being useful in that context.
Yeah.
So nobody without somebody to tell them will try and do that, because the game presents her to you as a pure support, basically.
Yeah, and she is a damage dealer support hybrid. And the game just doesn't tell you this. It's something you either have to figure out on your own or have somebody point out to you. Which is a problem. The caster situation in general for the early game will be a problem for quite a while, I think. I think they do eventually introduce some kind of eases to it because JP recognized it as a problem. But yeah. That's Pinecone. Not a whole lot to it. I've been blowing refreshes, 300 gems and refreshes every day since the patch came out to grind up gear while we got the ×2 drops from normal quests going on to try and push myself over to the next rank of gear. Which
I'm allergic to even the thought of spending jewels on something like that.
Anytime we hit a rank threshold, I do ×3 refreshes. Anytime there is a hard or normal double drop up. Because if you get a head start with the double drops up when the rank drops, it makes the rest of that rank tier so much easier. So much less thinking. And I know what all the MLG clan battlers say, keep them at rank 14 with these 2 slots and no refinement, and or only refine one of them all the way but leave the other one alone, and keep them at this level with this. They're eventually
and give up being able to do PvP at all because you'll be squishier than everybody else.
Yeah, and then forget all that. They're eventually going to introduce rank bonus in about a year, where most of that degenerate gameplay just disappears. So they squashed it in JP, and they will eventually squash it here.
Yeah, it is really, like, the whole ranking up system is something that, I don't know about you, but I felt like it was sort of, instinctively it feels wrong that ranking up doesn't give you any bonuses.
Yeah, then they eventually just give you the rank bonuses. It's like every other rank or something, or maybe every rank, you get a raw stat bonus. And carry over most of what you had from the previous tier, because you actually lose power if you rank up from a fully refined rank 14 to rank 15 with no equipment.
You only get a partial refund, right?
Yeah, you only get about half to 2/3 of your refinement crap back, and you do not get any of the mana back. That's all gone. I am currently in
Which is
mana
the thing
hell.
that that's basically QP hell for Pinecone, right?
Yeah, and I've hit it hard. After the level cap increase to 145, I have no mana. It's all gone. So, did accidentally pull Halloween Kyoka, though. I decided to YOLO the banner because I was completely out of Divine Amulets, pretty much, and wanted a stockpiled supply for when Luna eventually drops. So I'm like, I'll go ahead and throw a couple. I'll throw a few 10 pulls at the banner and see what comes out of it. And I budgeted exactly 4 10 pulls. and pulled forward and got Halloween Kyoka on my 40th pull, which was nice.
But is she good for anything?
Yeah, she's her whole shtick is magic defense shred. She's like a support version of Makoto for casters. Except instead of also doing damage, she just also, instead of having defense down plus being a damage hose, she's magic defense down plus a mega damage steroid to the entire team of casters.
Oh, she's like a pure support version of Summer Carol.
Yeah, she's very usable in Clan Battle and Tower of Luna, but she's the problem is there just ain't a slot for her in a whole lot of fights later on as time goes on, because you need to have the damage hoses there instead, or you need very specific tools that Halloween Kyoka just doesn't have, because the only thing she can do is pump everybody else's numbers, and her numbers are pitiful. So yeah, that's Pinecone. Not a whole lot to it. So it got probably a whole hour and a half of non-can time from me this week because I had to actually play for a little bit and do some thunking because the new rank dropped, and that's about it. The other game has been, it probably keeps flicking off because I keep tabbing out of the game to check my notes, is Devil May Cry 4. Not 1, not 2, not 3. 3 I gave up on after I finished the playthrough I was on because you can't claw grip, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the style meter, or the style switching mechanic if you can't, style switch in real time. And then played through 5, but I've already beaten 5. I've already S-ranked every single mission twice in that game, and a third time just seemed like overkill. So after I did Human and Devil Hunter difficulty, I was like, I'll put that one on the shelf again, keep that save file around, and started Son of Sparta. And booted up Devil May Cry 4. And I have never, ever, this is the only Devil May Cry game, I've never fully S-ranked. And I'll explain why. Devil May Cry 3 has an esoteric ranking system that I have no idea how it works. Just get a whole lot of style points and don't take damage. That's all you need to know. It's a very straightforward system, but nobody can break down how it works. But you seem to get S ranks as long as you get as high style as is reasonable for the stage, with a few missions that are pains in the butt.
I would have thought that would be data mineable at least.
Yeah, but all the guides and text guides that are written about it are like 1 billion years old. So finding the modern ones that have broken all that stuff down is relatively difficult. And the ones that are out that claim to know what they're doing, what it is, are wrong. Just from experimentation, I can tell you they're wrong. Devil May Cry 5's S-rank math is much simpler, and is the simplest of all the games. Every time you engage in a new combat encounter after being out of combat, so the mandatory fights are always included in the average. Oh, you're rated on a score of 1 to 10,000 for each combat encounter, and the game will average all of your combat encounter style rating at the end of the mission. Now, how feasible it is to hit 10,000 is dubious in some missions, where some of the enemies have such a low multiplier on the style they give you because they're your basic Impusa or Pride or the boss that just doesn't give much style for whatever reason. So you wind up having to pick and choose your fights, which doesn't seem very Devil May Cry, and it's a really counterintuitive way to S-rank some things, because you need like 6,000 average style on Dante Must Die, but some of the fights in Dante Must Die, it is literally impossible to get 6,000 style, so the fight can only hurt you if you attempt it. There is no way to get anywhere close to the amount of style you need, so you wind up having to skip fights and find ways that are intentionally made into the game, as revealed later by the developers, to just skip some of the fights. And finding out how to do these skips consistently is part of Devil May Cry 5's ranking system. So it has that drawback, and that certain missions, like Mission 18 in particular, is really bad, where you fight 2 mini-bosses and then a big boss at the end, and the mini-bosses give Jack all for style, and the only things in between those fights also give Jack all for style, and you still need 6,000 points to get the S rank. So what people wind up doing is they find the trash enemies and will just sit there and royal guard until they get to SSS rank. Or they'll sit on top of a ledge that the enemies can't get to and just do the 3 million red orb taunt that gives them style before they ever start the engagement with the enemies. Because as long as you don't deal damage, it only counts towards your score for that encounter if you do damage. So as long as you do actions that don't hurt the enemy, you can continue to raise the style gauge. So it's that one secret mission from 4 where you have to raise the style gauge meter to a certain rank without doing any hostile actions. Except you have to do it for the entire combat encounter. And this is generally not liked in Devil May Cry 5 with the harder difficulties in S ranking, because there are some missions where this just gets really out of hand. Most missions are okay. The system works fine in 90% of the missions. It's just there's 3 missions in particular in 5 where this is really not fun. Mission 18 being the absolute most notorious, where the general advice even the pro players give other pro players is just cheese it. It's not worth it. It's too stupid. So, but for the rest of the game in Devil May Cry 5, it's a good system. You don't have to rush yourself. You don't have to go hunting for red orbs you don't want. You can pick and choose the encounters you think you're going to do well with, as long as you're not, going out of your way to do the ridiculous skips. Looking at you, Mission 11, where you have to ride Cavalier up the wall and do wacky wall hike, rebellion midair stinger shenanigans to skip entire floors of the place, because some of the fights just are really bad. And then, or Mission 8, where you gotta find a way to somehow be off of the elevator when the elevator starts descending and latch onto the wall to hop over it so that you never take the elevator and activate its encounter. Stuff like that. Other than that, it's all fine. That system works great and it's simple and easy to understand. Each difficulty has its own score threshold you need to meet to S-rank the mission, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Devil May Cry 4 is the biggest pain in the butt I've ever had the pleasure of trying to get S ranks in. Like if do you have my screen pulled up, Fern?
Yep.
So here, if y'all can see, I'll pull up not that one. Let's find a better example. Will probably be Son of Sparta mode. No. Where could I get a good example? Here. No, that one's not that good either. I'm trying to find an S rank that doesn't have very many S's in it. But unfortunately, I was just too stylish in some of these.
Too
so
stylish.
It's not what I would call humility.
Okay. This one's perfect. I have an A in clear time, an A in style, and a B in orbs found. You'll notice there's a whole lot more criteria here for your in-mission rank than before. But I still got an S rank. But none of them letters say S, do they? No. That's because your in-mission rank follows the following formula. Clearing the mission gives you a base value of some number arbitrary to that mission. Then you add your style points, your total style points. It's not an average like it is in Devil May Cry 5. It's just, you get your style as high as you can, and you will accrue style points faster with a bigger multiplier the higher your style is. And you add all those to the in-mission clear flat number. And then, if you beat the mission's S clear time, multiply your score by 2. If you get an A, multiply it by 1.75. Then take that number. And if you got 95+% of the orbs, multiply it by 2 again. If you did not use an item, multiply it by 1.2. If you did not take any damage, multiply it by 2 again. This is a problem, because specifically the style is additive throughout the mission, where Human and Devil Hunter become, you will notice on the save file I'm working on right now, on Son of Sparta I have S ranks the entire way down. But there are A's, B's, and 1 C in Human and Devil Hunter. Because the enemies just don't have any HP. And it's very hard to raise style in DMC4 relative to the other games. It has one of the strictest style meters in the franchise, and you just don't have time to get it up there. It takes forever. So it winds up making Human and Devil Hunter difficulty one of the hardest things to accomplish in the game is getting all S ranks. Unless you're Lady and Trish from the special edition, who, as you can see, I've S-ranked everything from Human to Son of Sparta and have started Dante Must Die. Because literally all you have to do with Lady is charge the shotgun, and when it's fully charged, blow it up on people.
That's style.
That's it. Yeah, that's it's the easiest thing in the world. With Trish, she has so many multi-hitting moves that deal high damage that her style meter just skyrockets. It's impossible to have low style with Trish. So, the other problem with DMC4 is every single mission has an orbs found requirement. The orbs found requirement means you have to run around and break all the furniture and crap between you and the endpoint, and you have to get 95% of the red orbs from that drop out of just breaking random furniture and trash cans and whatever. This is a colossal pain when you just are trying to mostly focus on getting a high style rank. You have to stop and go, did I break all the candlesticks in the previous room? Did I break all the benches? Because if you don't get 95%, you lose. Your multiplier for orbs goes from 2 times 2 to times 1.75. And with some of these missions, the point threshold is really strict. And what the actual point threshold is different for every single mission. Like for mission 1, the point threshold is as long as you get all red orbs found, you only need like 318 style points, which is 1 attack on Dante. But you go to some of the other ones, it's like over here, it's 312,000 is what I got on this one. So several orders of magnitude bigger. So yeah, it's just been a project I've wanted to do forever, but have not ever sat down and done. And I've come to a conclusion with Virgil in particular, who you saw me play it as earlier if Fern had the stream up. Virgil is the easiest character in the world to clear a Devil May Cry game with, but he is the hardest character to S-rank with. Because the boy doesn't have any non-damaging style building stuff other than taunt. So you cannot pre-build style before you start depleting an enemy's health bar, of which I've mentioned before is already stupidly small. So this week's project has been try to S-rank everything on Human and Devil Hunter with Virgil and see if I can get that hurdle cleared. Because if I can clear that, I can finally accomplish the long-term goal of fully S-rank this stupid video game. But this will be a multi-week project that I'll work on and off with. It's just something I've decided to commit myself to now.
All right.
So yeah, it does not feel right having one Devil May Cry game that I just never S-ranked. When I talk about the franchise so much,
It's kind of a mark of shame.
So, almost nobody's fully S-ranked this game.
Yeah, it's because stupid.
Because not because it's particularly quote-unquote difficult compared or any more difficult than the other games. It's just a giant pain in the butt. Because like so many things with Devil May Cry 4, the scoring system is just kind of half-cooked and not very good. Oh, yeah. Capcom, why did you slash their dev time?
Because it's what they do.
I blame what's his face, the Mega Man guy. So yeah, well, if Fern keeps it on my screen, I'll just continue pushing through this, and you can continue to see how dumb it is, and you will see me do obviously stupid and risky things on human difficulty to just try and gamble for more style. Because you need to get every scrap you can with enemies that have no HP. On Dante Must Die, I will take significantly less damage than you will see me taking in Human and Devil Hunter because I'm not doing stupid risky crap to try and get more style.
You don't have to.
Yeah, because the enemies have enough health that you can do like just real combos that actually look good instead of having to use very specific moves that this move with Virgil here, like on this training dummy. 1, 2, 3, wait and mash. This move will not kill the enemy until the last hit, but it will build style the whole time you do it. So you have to use moves like that. You got to use moves like 1 pause, 2 pause, 3-pause mash with Force Edge, which does very, very little damage and ends with a big finisher that gives you a lot of style. Or you have to use Beowulf and do just release charges, which are very difficult in the heat of combat, where you have to get it to a level 2 charge, and the second it hits the level 2 charge, you let go. And if you time it frame perfect, you get a huge damage and style boost. Like, I almost got one there. I don't get them very often, and so you don't see me trying them very often, because they're real tough to do. But yeah, that's there's not a whole lot to say about the progress going through it. It's Devil May Cry 4. It's still the same half-finished game that we all know. That it's incredibly fun to play, but all the levels and systems are they're only half there. It's only half of a video game.
And you can play a board game.
Yeah, there's stuff like Dice Game, which I'm not going to show you. In fact, I cleared that before the show on purpose, because I wanted it done and out of my way. There's a trick to it to get the dice to always land in the position you want it to. The problem is that trick involves waiting a lot on the dice for it to spin in the correct pattern, or not in the correct pattern, but to the right number, and then hit it with whatever that character's specific attack is to make the dice always come up as the number it was on when you smacked it. And this takes a bit for some characters. Lady in particular has it really bad, where her melee attack, her basic melee attack, that has a giant wind up because it's her swinging her big ass rocket launcher around, has to hit the dice at the right moment. And then you got the Beyblades that you can make go bounce around the area and do tons of damage, and they break walls and stuff, but they're impossible to aim correctly, and they totally dunk on your style meter, even though they do a ton of damage. You want to try and avoid using them, or when you do have to use them in the presence of enemies, you have to find a way not to accidentally activate them and accidentally use them and kill the enemies normally, which is harder than it sounds, because the game's targeting system prefers the gimmicky environmental crap. Just there's a whole lot of little things like that in this game that just make it a pain in the butt to go through and play on a super high level, which is why when you see people talk about how much they love Devil May Cry 4, they show you footage of Bloody Palace. Because the only thing they finished was the characters' combat systems.
Alright.
And yeah, it's a ton of fun to play. If you really like your character action games like I do, you can still get a whole lot of fun out of Devil May Cry 4. But I would not be doing this if I was not a franchise loyalist. This is a thing I'm doing because the game has Devil May Cry in its name, not because it is fun. In fact, it's the opposite of fun in some cases.
Alright. Well, if that's everything for your week...
Yeah, that's it. I had to stretch already as it was.
Did you notice we have an email?
I did not.
We do. Actually came in for last week's show, but that was kind of a rush, so yeah.
Well, one of you people will have to learn to England and read it, because I don't really feel like doing it.
Yep, I've got it. Alright, it comes, of course, from our good buddy Serathus, and he says, "Dear No Excuses. Not much on the video game front, so here, have non-gaming stuff." This is ominous. First of all, yes, the One Munch Pan, yes, okay. Wounds are still fresh. These wounds will not heal. Second of all, about the August 1st Spider-Man mod, when someone forces their flags on you, that's not an invasion. That's an occupation. Third of all, what's the worst Susan can do to the No Excuses YouTube channel? Demonetize it?
I don't know. She could just straight ban us or remove us.
Yeah, just delete the account.
Yeah, we wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
They will have no reason given, no communication given. We're so small. They will just disappear us. That will be the way it happens.
Yeah, they don't have any reason not to, and they don't have to give any notice. I mean, what are they going to do? What is anybody going to do? Only big channels can object, because they can make a stink about it elsewhere.
Yeah, the only people that ever get stuff resolved with Google are people that have the ability to make a stink about it on Twitter.
Yeah, or who have the connections to people who can make a stink on their behalf. we just do this for love. So if it disappears, then
And occasionally for rage.
Yes, well,
yeah,
okay.
I will find a new place to host it if it disappears. The only thing that will kill this show is us not being able to do it anymore for scheduling or physical reasons.
Yeah. Anywho, this is one of the many reasons I'm using ModDB instead of Nexus. Also, when you mentioned the worst of Skyrim's mods, my mind went to, it's probably nude mods and sex mods where low poly models bump against each other. Quite possibly not just humanoids, but also animals. We know what girls like. We saw what books they catapulted to the top of the bestsellers list. But I was wrong. Very wrong.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
And also, yes, we know what girls like. They like animal men. I've read the Kate Daniels books. I was made to read the Kate Daniels books in full, all of them, and they really like their manly lion men. Or at least that author does.
That author is probably a furry.
No, it's not. It's not the furry type. He's a man most of the time, but he can tap into this primal beast of this North American extinct lion and go full controlling beast man on her butt.
No, I don't want to know anymore, I think.
No, you don't. It is the cringiest urban fantasy love story you've ever read.
That's actually, that's a pretty high bar. So why did you have to read this?
A friend of mine, when I mentioned Dresden Files and that I liked urban fantasy, was like, oh, I know an urban fantasy series you'll love. It's even set in Atlanta.
That's your first red flag right there.
Yeah, that should have been the first red flag, but I was still regularly talking to her at the time, and so I diligently sat down and went through this whole series to play nice with her, basically. And I didn't really have anything else to listen to at the time either, so I subjected myself to this torture.
It sounds like you got what you deserved, really.
Okay, so, yeah. On the plus side, that's probably reason enough not to talk to this person anymore. Anywho...
I mean, they're just a woman. It's just what they're into, I guess.
Oh, dear.
All women are furries, got it.
Right. This is not something I wanted to learn today. Anyway, he goes on. As for Gamergate... Oh, no, never mind, I've just filled out another square on the bingo card.
I forgot about that square on the bingo card. It's like a free space.
It is like a free space. The best summation I've heard is Zoe Quinn, another box, slept with a bunch of guys to get favourable reviews on her video game. As a result, Roe vs. Wade, another box, got overturned.
Well, also Trump got elected.
Also that. That phrase actually probably does sum up a lot. It's completely nonsensical. There's no thread of logic whatsoever in it. So, it matches perfectly.
To be fair, there's basically nothing that progressives aren't moulding about that you couldn't put after as a result.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, it was kind of like the, what's a good word for it? It was a good display of the current culture. And the way things were going, and the culture that would lead to Trump rising and Roe v. Wade being overturned, and that we do exist.
It wasn't a true inciting incident, but
it
was sort of like this is the whirling maelstrom that now people can't ignore.
Yeah, it's kind of like
was the storm
final
that is approaching.
It wasn't the final straw, but it was one of the final straws.
It brought everything into the limelight for the nerds, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people did pick sides over it, and a lot of people showed themselves to be, worthless fence sitters as well. Because realistically, having no opinion is an opinion.
Honestly, I think having the whole Zoe Quinn thing being one of the instigating factors of Gamergate worked against it in the biggest way.
Well, it did give its opponents a particular hook to try and reframe everything around it, because the bulk of what was actually happening was not about her.
Yeah,
she was just the touch paper for it becoming a thing because it was so brazen.
Yeah, But dissent had been brewing in the gaming community for a long time before that. It was just one of the last things that touched the whole rebellion off.
And never really went away either. It's dissent. It's moved away from being a central topic of discussion into being sort of like the ground state rumblings. And it's moved far away from being, oh, well, we're opposed to woke culture type of thing, because a lot of the gaming community is not even slightly opposed to woke culture. But it's become sort of a general opposition to the poor quality of writing, particularly that has emerged as a result of woke culture replacing craft.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, with that new Square Enix game that had that incredibly cringy trailer with the incredibly cringy dialogue, people see that as part of, and rightly, as part of the same phenomenon of low-quality, crappy Zoomer writing, which is basically an emergent property of that culture.
Add Saints Row to that too.
Yeah, Saints Row is the same thing, except Saints Row is more egregious because they're consciously trying to look woke.
Yeah, that game is still being lambasted.
But that's sort of the reason why I don't use that particular example, because that is an example of game creators consciously trying to be political, whereas that's not the case with the Square Enix one. The Square Enix one just has a sort of superficial, flippant tone of it that speaks to what the culture is, the culture that caused Gamergate to happen, where everything is treated in a sort of a flippant, post-ironic way.
Mm-hmm. That was only one of the many things that really built into Gamergate, and that's what a lot of the people who talk about Gamergate don't seem to understand. Is not just one thing.
Well, I think that most people do understand it, but it's a question of whether it's on a conscious or unconscious level. Like, the allegations by which progressive columnists will blame everything on Gamergate, I mean, it's not that Gamergate did those things. However, their instinct that Gamergate played a role is not wrong.
No.
Like, when they blame Gamergate for the election of Trump, they are not right. It wasn't that a huge groundswell of support for Donald Trump as president of the United States happened as a result of Gamergate. No, but what Gamergate did was serve as a weathercock for the culture. And it was that sort of cultural groundswell of opposition to being told you have to think the way the elite think that results in something like the election of Donald Trump.
Yeah. Anyway, there's still more email. Where was I? Got to find the spot again. Here we go. And he goes on. But anyway, since I have no idea about FGO and what a buster and art servant is, I figured I'd shed light to my Azure Lane. Oh no. So I was lucky enough to get New Jersey, one of the UR grade battleships, along with the Frederick de Gros. I bet I mispronounced that.
Just say Frederick the Great and you'll be fine.
Great Fred. She forms the main punch of the backline. And Warspite, because everyone has Warspite. Also lucked out in that... Also lucked out in one of the events, Vanguard, a British UR ship. But she is not used in PvP because she gives it tons of bonuses to fleets she is not in. But Vanguard and New Jersey can fire into each other, into other fleet battles, so that's a lot of help at high levels. I am so lost, and ironically enough, I'm completely at sea with Azure Lane.
I more or less understand what he's saying. Frederick de Gros has been regarded as comically broken. Well, was already regarded as comically broken when I was playing. It's possible that she's been power crept now. But, yeah, she's definitely OP.
Yeah.
Like, out of line with the rest of the power curve, I would say.
Yeesh. That's pretty broken. Anyway, the actual Vanguard's main star is the German starting destroyer Z-23. She is the third highest firepower destroyer in the entire game, paired with Z-28 and Z-1, whose job is to give a whole lot of bonus stats to Z-type destroyers. This fleet easily carries me to the top 400 in PvP, that is, unless I come up against a fleet who has Shimikaze.
Shimikaze, I've heard, is a very very meta distorting ship.
Yeah.
And not normally in line with the rest of the power level, but even that being the case, she's what Cerithus is basically saying is that he uses a gunnery type fleet. That's what that essentially means. Because if you're building pure Ironblood, the way it sounds like he's done with his Vanguard, that's essentially you're going Ironblood. And when I was playing, very few people ran a pure Ironblood Vanguard because they just couldn't compete with torpedo output of a Sakura Empire fleet. And so you would see Shimakaze wasn't in the game back then, but you would mostly see like the really heavy torpedo ships would be the ones that would come out a lot. What were they? I can't remember. Yukikaze would normally be there because Yukikaze is very hard to put down. Who else? It's been a long time since I played it. Shigure would sometimes appear. The starter Ayanami would often appear. Like they rely on burst damage as opposed to sustained damage. The Ironblood fleets rely on sustained damage in the Vanguard as far as that's concerned. He's certainly he's not wrong about the likes of New Jersey and Frederick de Grosse. Those high-end ultra rares and priority ships are really, 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 really out of line with the rest of the power curve. It's a bit, in a sense, it's a sort of a questionable way of building your game balance. But even that said, it's not like they've made them so inaccessible that everybody can't get a hold of them anyway. Because priority ships are not gacha. And a lot of ultra rares are not gacha. They're things that you build towards. Because that's one of the things that makes Azur Lane strong as a gacha. Number one, it's very generous. Both with the current gacha currency and with the rates, the pull rates. But the really, really hideously meta-distorting ships are always ones that are accessible to everybody that you grind into existence rather than pulling from the gacha. In fact, you can't pull them from the gacha. You have to grind them up. So everybody is on a very level playing field. That's why it's regarded as a very, very accessible game. In fact, the thing that makes the number one thing that makes people not play the game is probably the sheer gratuitous amount of cheesecake.
It's pretty shameless on that score.
Yeah, I'd say Azur Lane is probably one of the most shameless outside of the ones that are explicitly designed to be bordering on softcore porn. But
everyone's got to look at their boat waifus.
But yeah, well, I mean, there's a boat waifu for everybody's favourite aesthetic. there are so many of them now. But yeah, I think they just announced another high-end ship. Musashi, I think, got announced very recently, and I'm sure being one of the Yamato class, that she's going to be comically overpowered as well. Occasionally they miss the bar for comically overpowered and end up in the realm of fundamentally broken design instead, where it just doesn't quite work, but most of the time they just end up being really, really powerful. But it becomes a question of like which particular type of ridiculous meta-distorting build are you going for? But they've sort of managed to skirt the problem of power creep by creeping power so aggressively from every conceivable direction that you can't really get a beat on it. And Shimakaze is one of the few that I've heard have really carved out a place of just, oh well, Shimakaze is just everywhere. Like I use Warspite as my main heavy hitter as well. I would use like Queen Elizabeth, Warspite, Monarch or something like that as my backline, and use a pure shelling backline. And I don't know who I used in the front, probably Javelin, London, someone else, not sure, can't remember, been a long time. When I was running, because I ran Royal Navy for the most part, and I managed to climb pretty darn high in the rankings once upon a time. But you could make most things work. The top 100 spots would all be the same fleet usually, something like that. Yeah. But everything under that was up for grabs. Everything at the top would be either the meta fleet or the counter meta fleet, and they would trade positions on that. and they would often be quite janky builds as well. But you could use a diversity of strategies to approach the lower rankings. So I used quite a few different ones. I particularly favoured using the Crane sisters because I really like both of them. They're top quality waifus, but they're also meta bad. Like, they are the worst of the carrier sisters by far. I don't know if they ever buffed them. I wish they would, but you can't have everything you want.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like it almost feels like Pinecone for a very brief amount of time is kind of trying that grind focus with the PvP meta characters.
The thing is that it's way, way, way more in depth than Pinecone. Like, strategically, Pinecone is a joke by comparison, because imagine a Pinecone, but weapons didn't attach permanently to the characters, and armor didn't attach permanently to the characters, but they were all interchangeable pieces of equipment that all had different stats with different advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah,
then you've got Azure Lane.
I'm speaking purely on a grind versus gacha level, because right now it's all at the upper echelons of PvP. It's all the new 6-star characters.
It's all 6 stars. Everybody is either Reno Cannon or counter Reno Cannon.
Yeah, so it's either permanents that you have a high chance to pull, or it's literally the starting characters. Because right now, Carol is a beast in PvP. Just regular Carol, if you get her to 6-star. But we know this doesn't last, unfortunately. Because
we're currently in the narrow span of time where the top counter meta character is Ram.
Yes, where because Reno has all the pay-to-win players have got their 1 billion divine amulets to insta-get all her shards, and had the gems to just blow on refreshes for the princess orbs. The only way to stop the Renos until you have one of your own is to have Ram on the team, who has a single ability that comes out at the perfect time to stop her from hitting anything with her Union Burst.
Completely neuters Reno Cannon, which is like the most powerful offensive build in PvP right now. And it's a free character. A free crossover tie-in character from another franchise.
And you don't even need her anything. You just have to have her on the team. She could be literally level 1 with 1 star. You just need her to use one ability. And just all of a sudden Reno loses. Anyway, I just you mentioned how Azure Lane is grind heavy. I thought it was interesting that for this very brief window, free and initial characters that you can really just grind for are that way in Pinecone. But because we can see the future in Pinecone, we know it's not going to stay that way.
Yeah, I really loved Azure Lane. It was a game I had a lot of fun playing, but my loyalty is to Type Moon, and I couldn't support playing it at the same time as FGO because both of them are time hungry gacha games. And you can argue that there's auto mode for Azure Lane to mean you can pay less attention to it, but I was never really able to get to jive with the auto mode. Like, it would frustrate me knowing that the auto mode was screwing me over at times, because it's not like Pinecone, which is an auto battler already. It's a Danmaku game. So when you put it on auto, if you should ever glance at it and see it doing something retarded, I can't resist picking it up. So yeah, I couldn't get the hang of auto. It would just frustrate me too much.
Yeah, I think I would have a similar situation with it. But in Pinecone, we just get skip tickets. We just don't have to do the stage.
Alright, so thank you very much for the email there, Ceratus. Geez, well, I'm just looking at the time. Do we have any news we actually want to talk about?
The news wasn't cool this week.
It wasn't.
Really cool.
There's a couple newslets that I do want to touch on, and one that ties into Maguma Gates because of a certain event that got prominent right before it and got infected by Anti-Gamergate immediately after it.
Magorts!
So, GDQ, or SGDQ and AGDQ, the original owner has been, I don't know where the heck he is now, but I don't think he's associated with the project at all anymore. That whole thing has been totally eaten by the woke virus. They have pronouns in the runners' bios on screen now. Levels of woke going on there, and
it's in the bio.
they have traditionally held it in Florida for AGDQ, I think. So, and they are deciding to not have a real-life event this year in protest from Florida's, basically because Ron DeSantis is the governor of Florida. Let's see, what do they actually say? Let me kill these scarecrows.
People have opinions that disagree with these, and they just can't live with themselves because of it.
Right. Their decision to cancel... They of course frame it as a health issue, because that's the only way they can even pretend this is legitimate. And they say... the group explains their decision to cancel the in-person event has to do with Florida's COVID-19 policy. This is state anti-mandated vaccination policies, calling it a disregard for COVID-19's dangers. And the parental rights and education law, which they are calling the Don't Say Gay law. Because they're dumb. Like everybody... Oh, this
anybody actually believe that?
Oh, it's the left's mantra. Everybody on the left believes this.
But
they think this thing actually makes it so you can't say gay in school.
Yeah, that's not what it does.
It stops you, like, giving sex education to kindergartners. Like, It stops you from being an active pedophile as a teacher. I know that that's a real blow to the ambitions of the left, but come on.
Wow.
So that they're willing to take a financial ding for this, the charity organization in name that is having to pay money, a lot of money, on a cancellation fee for a venue they rented out ahead of time back in 2001.
Well, in their circles, that's probably a good investment because it's a good way of signaling your virtue, and that will stop them getting cancelled for one thing at a later date.
That won't.
So yeah, AGDQ not happening this year, which honestly at this point I'm fine with. That whole event is just cancer now. And ironically, the thing that woke me up to this was the speedrun of Devil May Cry 4, where a guy made a slightly off-color joke, and things were said about him that had no evidence to back them up, which may or may not be true. If they are, yeah, sure, that's awful, whatever. But they didn't substantiate any of it, and just sounded like they were a bunch of angry bitches making stuff up about this runner.
That was probably because there are a bunch of angry bitches making stuff up about that runner.
And, got him unpersoned from polite society on the internet and thrown out of the run and banned. Now, he was apparently a bit of a character before, but that's not here nor there.
I mean, he was a denizen of the old internet.
Yeah, he was a 4chan shitposter, basically, is what it sounded like. So yeah, he got kicked out. So a guy playing the game I'm playing right now is what woke me up to just how screwed up AGDQ and SGDQ was. And then like 2 years later, the pronouns in the bio came out.
I have difficulty believing that pronouns in the bio are even a thing after all this time. It just seems so dumb, like so mind-bendingly stupid.
Oh, I hate when I get an email from a company asking for pump information, and it says they, them, or he, she in the freaking email signature. Like I don't know what you put in your email signatures if you even have one. Mine is my name, my phone number, and my my other contact information and where you reach me at what times. Like, it's all just relevant information that people can use. It describes nothing about me at all, other than where I work.
Mine has my job title in it, but other than that, it's all business's information.
Yeah. Then I have received emails from companies, nameless insurance companies actually, where they've got this novella in their signature line stating, "Oh, look at how great we are, all our awards and stuff."
Oh, you gotta love that. I love
Nobody cares
when they
about your
attach
awards.
I do have a tiny image in my signature, but it drives me absolutely up the wall when people just overload their signature with images.
Yeah, like a company logo in the signature is fine.
Yeah, that's what I have. I have a tiny company logo.
Yeah.
But oh man, some people they gotta put all the Facebook, Twitter hyperlink images, because when they do that crap to it, that shows up all as an individual attachment with my email the way it's set up. So if I'm on the web browser version,
that just makes the email bigger.
And then when I see they, them, or he, she on top of it, my brain just snaps a little bit. Because it always comes together, right? It's always the people with the bloated signatures that have the pronouns in their email signature.
Anywho. What else we got?
Wizards of the Coast, since we're on a roll this week, thinks a certain race of people look like monkeys.
What's he beclowning itself again? Who'd have thunk it?
Yeah.
You know.
So they put out a new race to go with 5.5e. I'm not going to call it 1D&D because nobody's going to call it 1D&D. Which is a race of winged monkeys who were basically genetically engineered to be a slave race and broke free. Pretty cool bit of lore, honestly. But, yeah, Twitter happened.
Yeah, and Twitter can... when they see monkey, they immediately think black person because they're Twitter, and they're a bunch of racists. And so they came down on WotC by projecting onto them their view of monkeys.
Yeah.
I
so
mean,
what's ultimately quietly just changed the bit of lore to say no, they're a naturally evolved race.
Just make it plain and uninteresting. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Well, no, the goal was just to force someone to comply. That was it. But
yeah, you can't have cool lore.
The end result was that the lore is now slightly more boring. Not that WotC's been able to put out any good content for an appreciable fraction of forever now. I mean, what are you going to do? They are based in Seattle.
Yeah, that's half their problem.
Yeah, Seattle is a special circle of hell.
All right, so that's just another bit. Like, it's just a slight be-clowning of themselves again.
Yeah, their products don't interest me because the company can't stop blending their own politics with it. Like they went through and they revamped the pronouns on a whole bunch of Magic cards as well. I heard.
Yeah.
Like, why?
It doesn't make any difference. Why?
To who do you think you're trying to impress? The headsman will come for you all the same when they decide your time is up.
Well, right now if they're in Seattle, they're true believers, almost certainly. The only people that can stay in Seattle after what it's gone through the past couple of years would be true believers in this stuff.
Absolutely absurd.
Alright, so that's that. What's next?
What else has happened? Tencent has managed to enrich its investment in Western markets again. They've raised their stakes in Ubisoft, so they're nearly at 300 million investment now. More Chinese tendrils. As I pointed out on the politics board in our Discord server, Chinese money's fake. Stop taking it. The big massive real estate company in China, Evergrande, has defaulted on its loans because it can't sell its building. Funny that. Just because you've managed to pad your balance sheet with a humongous amount of capital assets in the form of property doesn't mean anybody has the money to buy that property. In value, the thing only has the value in an open market to the extent that people are willing to pay for it. Doesn't matter what you think it's valued at on paper. If nobody is going to buy it, then it is worth no dollars.
Yeah, it is worth whatever the market's buying price is, not whatever your asking price is. You can ask for the world, you're probably not going to get it. Yep.
People don't seem to understand that the market economy cuts every which way. Yeah, so we have one of these stories basically every week at this point, where Tencent or NetEase or whatever is expanding their influence on the market because everybody's poor in the West right now, and so they're taking fake Chinese money as a panacea to the problem. No, this is not a panacea to the problem. This is just kicking the can down the road for a bigger explosion later.
Yeah, every time I see a company like Tencent doing their best to get to do these purchases, all it comes off to me as is what's a way to put it? Is them getting their money out of China. But we in the West are stupid for taking that same money from China. Because they just want their investments in their wealth investments out of Chinese money, because they clearly don't have faith in it with as much as they're investing in foreign markets. And it's not just Tencent. There's a ton of Chinese groups that are doing this with media and with locations and farms and real estate all over the place just to get their money out of Chinese money, it seems like. Or their wealth out of Chinese money.
Peggle indeed. No, just didn't have anything to really add to that. Alright. And
news is done this week.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of bleh. Like, we had Tokyo Game Show, but that was another one of basically like Tencent owns everything now.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to get excited about any of that stuff. I mean, MiHoYo's games still look really cool. They regularly release new content, new beta access, and that sort of thing to the games that they're pulling out. But in the end, it's still MiHoYo games, which means that there's a whole bunch of caveats and asterisks after the quality of their games.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of great games that are coming out of China right now. They're all hooked into that same engine, and they're all going to have the same sort of drawbacks that other great games like Genshin Impact have. Which, even if they're great games, like I said, asterisks for days.
Mm.
Yeah, but everybody's has been talking for some time, in fact, about how great Punishing Grey Raven is. But yeah. I can't bring myself to even try it because I know that it's hooked into that same engine.
All right.
There's a lot of great talent in there as well. Like I keep seeing online like the music and stuff from Genshin Impact because there's so much great talent has gone into that game. It's all attached to this horrid system. There's a horrid system which is designed to squeeze you for more money to fund China.
They got to fund Winnie the Pooh's honey fund.
Anyway, we should probably wrap up then because I think we've ticked every box.
Yeah. We got the China one in the end.
Yeah.
Oh, we haven't done Alex Jones yet. Is there a way we can wrap him into it?
You just did.
I did manage to get a upgrade in that clicker game that I'm not going to talk at any great length about, which turned all the frogs gay.
I regret everything.
You should.
Yes.
That is the appropriate stance and disposition for our current culture.
Let's wrap up, shall we?
Everything was a mistake.
Before Fern just gives up on life entirely.
Yeah. So, email topic of the week. How canceled do you think we are?
Yes.
That is the correct answer, but I would like the initial opinions of you before Fern gave you the correct answer.
Yep. Alright, so let's move on then, shall we? we're going to get cancelled and I'm waiting for the boot to drop.
Yep. Closing comments, go. I guess.
Don't want to adult anymore. Thankfully, like I said at the start of the show, I'm out of Drunk Cowboy season. We just need to find more employees again.
Again.
I've already told them, look, don't just hire what we need, hire extra.
Yeah, because most of them are going to leave anyway.
Yeah, that way we might get to keep one.
And if you do overstaff, it sounds like you guys always have work to do. So
I've got loads of stuff I need to go and do, but I can't.
Like, it just sounds like you'd have more money coming in because it seems like you're always doing stuff.
Yeah.
So more drivers means more money. Unless your government has found a way to tax your cars to such a degree that there's a sweet spot in drivers where You need to be sure you don't overstaff, otherwise the government comes to get you.
It hasn't happened yet.
Fortunately, he lives in Queensland, so it's going to be a while before.
Well,
I hear a lot of people from from Victoria particularly, but also New South Wales to some extent. People who lie to the centre right and right politically have been talking about moving to Queensland lately because they think that at least Palaszczuk would be better than this when it comes to, well, the reality that we're facing down is that our boy Dan's going to get elected again. So
yeah, there might be a lynch mob if that happens.
I think it's more than likely that he'll get re-elected.
Yeah, unfortunately, because
there's just a composition. There's a composition of people there.
But, yeah, we're actually getting a electric car charging station being built in town at the start of next year. So that's a thing.
Your country really seems to like brownouts for some reason.
Yeah, well, not only that, is you cannot get an electric car to function out this far. You just can't get it here.
Yes, like they've only got a range of, 360 kilometres or something.
Yeah, which means to drive from here to Townsville in an electric car, it would take you 4 days.
You have to put it on one of those car-moving trailers and drive it using petrol out there.
Yes. So you could use it around town, and actually, no, you can't go to the next town over, because you'll be able to get there, do some driving around, and then come maybe 3/4 of the way back.
It becomes a multi-day trip, basically.
It becomes a multi-day trip.
Oh man, I've loved California passing that stupid electric car law, because
they
there's
passed
so
a generator
many
ban recently, didn't they?
Yeah, and a gas-powered lawnmower ban.
Yeah, no one's going to listen to those.
Yeah, they had to pass the generator ban because people were just hiring generators to charge their cars.
Yeah.
Since the grid couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're putting diesel into the generator to charge their electric car.
Yeah. They would literally be buying their own personal generators to charge the car. And yeah.
I just love the whole irony of that.
And these people did this unironically without realizing that this totally defeats the purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
They did not did not see any problem here.
Why didn't you just buy a car that has the generator under the hood?
Yeah, like powered by gas.
Yeah.
The cheaper gas than what you're putting in the generator, in fact.
If they want to feel virtuous, they could just, I don't know, they could go part way and get a hybrid or something. That's what's popular in New Zealand. Electric cars aren't that popular.
Hybrids are good.
People like hybrids.
Hybrids are good for general use.
When my dad was commuting to and from Atlanta, he swore by his hybrid because of the gas he saved on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of our in New Zealand, it's sort of really hard to make the electric car sell to people who aren't really, really dumb, because the vast majority of our grid electricity is renewable already, because some comes from geothermal and hydroelectric.
Mm-hmm. Sustainable ones.
Yeah, we're built. We're surrounded by water, and we're built on top of volcanic fault lines. There's no reason for us not to make use of that. But yeah, we've already done all that. So hybrids, people are fine with hybrids, but there's no point in trying to push our limited electrical grid to the point of failure when we've already done the work to get away from just burning fuel oil for everything to begin with.
Yeah.
So we already paid our dues to the environment.
Yeah, it's done. New Zealand is good, but yeah, not Australia.
No, everybody has to make sure they are you driving a car constructed using poisonous metals mined by slave labor, then assembled at great carbon footprint expense in China.
And weren't all you Twitter lefties just angry at Elon Musk for his lithium mines or whatever, 2 minutes ago?
But they're bad man lithium mines.
Invite Spaceman.
Yeah, if you're a bad person, your electric cars also become bad.
And with Spaceman, that's bingo. Let's get out of here, shall we?
So I would love to have a show just about media and video games, but there needs to be media and video games for us to talk about, number one. And number two, this other stuff that scares Fern needs to stop being relevant to the media and video games that do media and video game.
to go back to Gamergate, we just wanted to play video games.
Like, I would be perfectly content just playing Devil May Cry games and living a normal ass life. But no, you people didn't want that. I probably would not have woken up to some of your crazier ideas if you'd have just left my video games alone. But no. Couldn't do it.
Rant over. We need to go play some video games.
Yes, we do. Well, I'm playing video game. I'm currently on Dante Must Die mode because I got the feeling the audience was getting quite sick of watching me do dumb things as Virgil to beat human mode with an S rank. So yeah, that's that. All right, folks. Hopefully, we'll have some actual media and video game news. I am in an uncertain time right now, so I have no idea how my weeks are going to go. They're basically impossible to plan because as long as tax season's going on, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. It's just whatever happens that day is that day's problems, and all problems of tomorrow are tomorrow me's problems. And if I look at it any other way, I'll go insane.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have some more media to talk about with you next week, and we won't be as stuck in real world stuff to talk to you about. All right, I think that's it, folks. We'll see you next week. Sayonara, bye bye.